Spencer Griffin was 39 years old and spent most days repairing broken HVAC systems across Portland, Oregon. People who saw his oil-stained boots, old Ford F-150, and faded Casio watch assumed he was just another divorced blue-collar father barely holding life together. Every morning he packed Lily's lunch himself before driving to job sites in Beaverton. Every Friday, he deposited money into a savings account nobody knew existed. What Amelia Ross didn't know was that Spencer had kept one sealed file locked in a steel safe for 8 years. The courthouse envelope trembled once in his hand. Then the edge of the custody petition sliced across his thumb as he read the words, "Full custody requested." Before we continue, tell me where you're watching from and what your local time is right now. And if stories about betrayal, quiet strength, and hard-earned justice are your kind of stories, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's story gets even darker. The rain had started before sunrise and never really stopped. By 8:30 that morning, downtown Portland looked washed in cold gray light. Water streamed along the curbs outside the Multnomah County Courthouse, while attorneys in dark coats crossed Southwest First Avenue carrying leather briefcases and paper cups of coffee. Spencer Griffin stayed inside his truck for almost 11 minutes after parking. The engine was off, wipers still ticking once every few seconds out of habit. The custody petition sat open on the passenger seat. He read the same sentence again. Petitioner seeks sole legal and physical custody of minor child Lily Griffin due to concerns regarding respondent's financial instability and emotional fitness. The words themselves did not anger him as much as the precision behind them. Amelia Ross had always known how to package damage professionally. She worked in marketing for Halbrook Urban Developments, one of the largest luxury real estate firms in Portland. Amelia understood presentation, angles, language, timing. She knew how to make expensive condominiums sound warm and human. She knew how to sell glass towers to people who hated cities. And now she was selling a story about him. Spencer folded the document carefully along the original crease before placing it back inside the envelope. No shaking hands, no swearing, no dramatic phone call, just silence. The cut on his thumb had left a thin line of blood across the paper. He wiped it with a napkin from the dashboard. Then he drove to work. The building on Northeast Sandy Boulevard had a failed rooftop HVAC unit. A restaurant owner named Miguel Herrera met him outside under an awning dripping rainwater. "You're late by 3 minutes," Miguel joked. Spencer nodded once. "Traffic." Miguel noticed nothing unusual. Most people never did. Spencer climbed the access ladder carrying 40 pounds of tools over one shoulder. Wind pushed against his jacket while rainwater soaked through the knees of his jeans. He spent nearly 2 hours replacing a failed blower motor while freight trains rattled somewhere near the riverfront. At 11:14 a.m., his phone vibrated inside his pocket. Amelia. He stared at the screen until the ringing stopped. A voicemail appeared immediately after. He listened without expression. "Spencer, you got the paperwork by now," Amelia said. Her voice sounded smooth, controlled. Office voice. "I think we both know this is what's best for Lily. Don't make this harder than it has to be." Background noise hummed behind her. Espresso machines, conversation. Probably the cafe beneath her office tower. Then another voice entered faintly. Male, laughing. "Brandon Pierce." Spencer ended the voicemail halfway through. By noon, rainwater had soaked through the shoulders of his work jacket. He drove back toward Beaverton with the heater running low and one hand resting on the steering wheel at 12 o'clock. His house sat inside a quiet neighborhood near Cooper Mountain Elementary. Small yard, white siding, gutters that needed cleaning before winter. Nothing impressive. But every corner inside carried evidence of Lily. Purple rain boots beside the front door, crayon drawings attached to the refrigerator with alphabet magnets. A half-finished cardboard solar system hanging above the dining table. Spencer paused there longer than usual. Saturn tilted slightly lower than the others because Lily had used too much tape. He fixed it automatically. At exactly 3:07 p.m., he parked outside Cooper Mountain Elementary for pickup. Parents clustered beneath umbrellas near the front entrance. Teslas, BMW, SUVs, designer raincoats. Spencer's old Ford looked like construction equipment beside them. Lily spotted him first. Dad. She ran straight through puddles toward the truck wearing a yellow rain jacket 2 sizes too big. Her backpack bounced against her shoulders. Spencer opened the passenger door before she reached him. "You forgot your gloves again," he said. "I know. You'll lose fingers someday." That's dramatic. A small smile almost appeared on his face. Almost. Lily climbed into the truck and immediately wiped fog from the window with her sleeve. "How was school? Mrs. Whitman says my volcano project looked structurally concerning?" That sounds expensive. It exploded early. That's usually how volcanoes work. Lily laughed once. Then she noticed the courthouse envelope partially tucked beneath Spencer's lunchbox. Her smile faded slightly. "Mom called me during recess." Spencer kept his eyes on traffic. "What'd she say?" "She asked if I wanted to move to Seattle." The windshield wipers dragged slowly across glass. "She already found a school there," Lily added quietly. Spencer's grip tightened around the steering wheel for less than a second. Outside traffic crawled past strip malls and wet intersections. He spoke carefully. "You want to move to Seattle?" Lily shrugged too quickly. "Kids lied with their shoulders before their mouths." "I don't know." Spencer nodded once. No pressure, no guilt, just space. That was how he always handled fear with her. At home, Lily changed into sweatpants while Spencer made grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup. Rain tapped softly against kitchen windows while the evening news played low from the living room television. Lily sat at the counter, drawing wolves in a sketchbook. "Mom says Brandon has a boat," she said casually. Spencer flipped the sandwich in the pan. "Good for Brandon. He said Seattle has better schools." "Maybe. And bigger houses." Spencer placed soup bowls on the counter. "Probably." Lily studied him carefully then. Children noticed calm more than anger. That was why she finally asked the real question. "Are you mad?" Spencer sat across from her. "No. You don't look normal. That's because your volcano project exploded my sleep schedule." A tiny smile returned. But only for a second. Lily lowered her spoon. "Mom said courts decide where kids belong." The room grew quieter after that. The refrigerator hummed softly in the background. Spencer looked at his daughter for a long moment before answering. "Courts decide paperwork," he said. "People decide who shows up." Lily seemed to think about that. Then she nodded slowly and returned to her soup. Later that night, after Lily fell asleep on the couch during a nature documentary, Spencer carried her carefully to bed. Her bedroom smelled faintly like crayons and strawberry shampoo. He tucked the blanket around her shoulders before switching off the lamp. On the dresser beside her bed sat a framed photo from the Oregon coast 2 summers earlier. Lily sat on Spencer's shoulders, smiling into ocean wind, while Amelia stood beside them wearing sunglasses and white linen. Perfect family photograph. Perfect lie. Spencer stared at it for several seconds. Then his phone buzzed again. This time it was an email notification from Cooper Mountain Elementary. He opened it standing in the hallway darkness. The subject line stopped him cold. "Emergency contact information updated." Spencer read the message once, then again. A new authorized pickup contact had been added for Lily Griffin, Brandon Pierce. Spencer's jaw tightened slowly. Not explosive anger, something colder, more focused. He walked silently into the kitchen and opened the drawer beside the refrigerator. Inside sat a small black notebook, maintenance logs on one side, personal notes on the other, dates, times, conversations. Spencer picked up a pen and wrote carefully beneath the newest entry. September 14th. Amelia added Brandon Pierce to Lily's school authorization list without discussion. He underlined the sentence once, then closed the notebook. Rain continued falling outside the house long after midnight, and upstairs Lily slept peacefully while two adults quietly prepared to pull her life apart. Spencer Griffin did not call Amelia that night. He did not text Brandon Pierce. He did not drive across town and pound on anyone's door. At 12:18 a.m., while the rain softened into a steady hiss against the gutters, Spencer sat at the dining table with his laptop open and a yellow legal pad beside his left elbow. Lily's cardboard Saturn hung crooked above him again. He let it stay that way. There were moments when fixing small things became a way to avoid looking at larger ones. The custody petition lay flat in front of him. Amelia's accusations were highlighted in blue. Respondent lacks consistent income. Respondent's work schedule creates instability. Respondent has failed to provide a nurturing emotional environment. Spencer read each line once more. Then he opened a folder on his laptop labeled simply Lily Records. Inside were subfolders organized by year. Most people kept memories in photo albums or phone galleries. Spencer kept proof, not because he had planned for war, because routine mattered to him. Because after the divorce, when Amelia began canceling weekends and rescheduling holidays and saying one thing on the phone before denying it later, Spencer had learned not to trust memory alone. He opened the 2024 folder first. There were scanned receipts from Providence St. Vincent Medical Center, dental invoices from Cedar Hills Pediatric Dentistry, soccer registration forms, school lunch payments, a signed permission slip for a field trip to the Oregon Zoo. Next came photos. Lily asleep on the couch with a fever thermometer on the coffee table. Lily holding a spelling bee certificate. Lily in mismatched socks brushing snow off the porch in January. Lily beside Spencer's truck grinning with two missing teeth and a paper crown from Burger King. Nothing dramatic, nothing polished. The kind of life that did not impress strangers but built a child. Spencer copied everything onto an external hard drive. Then he began printing. By 1:40 a.m., the old HP printer on the side table wheezed and clicked like it was being asked to testify under oath. Page after page slid into the tray. Pickup schedules, bank statements, medical records, email chains with Mrs. Eleanor Whitman. One email from March stood out. Mr. Griffin, thank you again for attending Lily's reading assessment meeting. She seemed calmer once you arrived. Spencer placed that one in a separate pile. At 2:13 a.m., he opened his black notebook. The first entry was dated almost 4 years earlier, October 6th. Amelia missed pickup. Lily waited in office 42 minutes, said traffic, no call. The handwriting changed over the years, at first short, practical, almost reluctant, then more detailed. May 19th, Amelia asked to switch Mother's Day weekend after already confirming. Lily cried, but did not want to call her, took Lily to Powell's, bought Wolf Book. December 24th. Amelia returned Lily at 9:47 p.m. instead of agreed 6 p.m. Lily had not eaten dinner. June 3rd, Brandon present during FaceTime. Told Lily she would love the Seattle house. Amelia laughed. Lily looked away. Spencer read the entries without satisfaction. There was no pleasure in being right about pain. At 6:05 a.m., he made coffee-packed Lily's lunch and stood in the kitchen while toast browned in the toaster. His eyes burned from lack of sleep, but his hands moved with the same practiced care. Turkey sandwich, apple slices, carrot sticks. A small note folded into the napkin. Volcanoes are supposed to be dramatic. Dad Lily came downstairs wearing one sock and carrying the other. You look tired, she said. So do you. I'm 8. Exactly. Hard life. She sat at the counter and pulled on her second sock. Are you working today after I drop you off? Can we still do Friday movie? Yes? Even if court stuff happens. Spencer paused at the refrigerator. The question had been placed gently, but it landed hard. He turned around. Especially then. Lily nodded, accepting it as fact because Spencer had never lied to her about showing up. After school drop-off, Spencer drove not to his first job, but to a narrow brick office building near Southwest Broadway. A brass plaque beside the entrance read, Rebecca Hale Family Law. The waiting room smelled like lemon polish and old paper. No music, no fake fountain, just gray chairs of receptionists behind glass and framed degrees from Lewis and Clark Law School. Spencer sat with 2 banker's boxes at his feet. At 9:02, the office door opened. Rebecca Hale stepped out. She was in her late 40s, tall, with silver-threaded black hair cut just below her jaw. Her suit was navy. Her expression did not invite small talk. Mr. Griffin Spencer stood. Yes, ma'am. She glanced at the boxes. Those for decoration, no. Good. Her office overlooked a parking garage and a sliver of downtown sky. On the wall behind her desk hung no family photos. Only a framed courtroom sketch from a custody case and a clock that ticked loudly enough to make silence accountable. Rebecca read Amelia's petition first. She did not interrupt herself, did not sigh, did not make sympathetic noises. Spencer watched her turn pages with the clean precision of someone handling evidence, not emotion. When she finished, she removed her glasses. She's not asking for leverage, Rebecca said. Spencer looked at her. She's asking to erase you. The words sat there, plain, accurate. Spencer said nothing. Rebecca tapped the page with one finger. Full legal custody. Full physical custody. Permission to relocate Lily out of state. Supervised visitation for you at her discretion. She wrote it like I'm dangerous. She wrote it like she wants the judge to be afraid of leaving the child with you. Spencer's eyes lowered to the petition. Rebecca leaned back. Are you? No. Have police ever been called to your home? Number, substance issues, number, criminal record, no anger management, psychiatric hospitalization, restraining orders? No? Good. Then we don't waste time being offended. That made Spencer look up. Rebecca's face had not changed. Offense is expensive, she said. Evidence is useful. Spencer reached down and lifted the first banker's box onto her desk. Rebecca opened it. The top folder was labeled School Attendance/Conferences/Teacher Emails. Behind it, Medical Lily Dental Extracurricular Expenses, Amelia Communication. Rebecca paused. Then she opened the second box. Inside were the notebooks. All 6 of them. Black covers. Dates taped along the spine. Rebecca picked up the oldest one and flipped through slowly. For the first time since he arrived, something in her expression shifted. Not softness, attention. You kept contemporaneous notes. I wrote things down when they happened. For 4 years, some before that. Rebecca looked at him over the notebook. Why? Spencer rubbed his thumb over the healing paper cut. Because Amelia remembers things differently when people are listening. Rebecca held his gaze for 3 seconds. Then she nodded once. That, she said, is the first useful sentence you've said today. For the next hour, she asked questions. Exact questions. Who took Lily to school on Mondays? Who attended medical appointments? Who paid insurance premiums? Who signed permission slips? Who stayed home when Lily had strep throat? Who knew the name of Lily's pediatrician without checking a phone? Spencer answered everyone, not proudly, just accurately. Dr. Karen Feldman, Providence Pediatrics on Barnes Road, strep in February, ear infection in May, allergy test in October, Rebecca wrote quickly. Then she pulled out a copy of Lily's birth certificate from the file Spencer had brought. Her pen stopped. She studied the document. Mr. Griffin. He looked up. Rebecca's voice had changed by less than an inch, but Spencer noticed. This birth certificate lists you as father. Yes? The mother section is not standard. Spencer's mouth tightened. Rebecca looked from the paper to him. Why is Amelia not listed here the way most mothers would be? Outside the window, a delivery truck backed into an alley with 3 sharp beeps. Spencer heard each one. He had expected this question eventually. Not today, not before lunch, not while rainwater still darkened the cuffs of his jeans. Rebecca waited. She was good at waiting. Spencer looked at the document in her hand, then at the banker's boxes on the desk, then down at his own hands. The same hands that had fixed air conditioners changed Lily's diapers, assembled her crib-held fever medicine to her lips at 3 a.m. He inhaled slowly. "There's another file," he said. Rebecca did not move. "What kind of file?" Spencer's voice stayed low. "Fertility clinic records." Rebecca's eyes sharpened. He reached into his jacket pocket and took out a small brass key attached to a plain metal ring. "At home," he said, "locked in a safe." Rebecca set the birth certificate down very carefully. "Mr. Griffin," she said before I asked the next question, "understand something. In custody cases, secrets are not neutral. They either protect someone or they become weapons for someone else." Spencer knew that already. He had known it since the day Amelia first held Lily in the hospital and cried like love could wash paperwork clean. He had known it the night Amelia left for 3 weeks and came back smelling like hotel soap and wine, asking him never to mention it. He had known it every time Lily called her mom. Rebecca leaned forward. "What exactly is in that safe?" Spencer looked toward the gray Portland sky beyond the window. Then he answered, "Proof that Amelia isn't Lily's biological mother." Rebecca remained still. The clock behind her desk ticked once, then again. Spencer's phone buzzed on the desk before either of them spoke. A text message from Amelia appeared on the screen. "Don't fight this, Spencer. You'll only confuse her." Rebecca saw the message. So did Spencer. He turned the phone face down. For the first time that morning, Rebecca Hale almost smiled. Not kindly, strategically. "Bring me the safe file," she said. The safe sat beneath a shelf of paint cans in Spencer Griffin's garage. Not hidden well enough for a movie. Hidden the way ordinary men hid important things. Behind winter tools, extension cords, and sealed plastic bins labeled Christmas lights. By the time Spencer got home that evening, the rain had turned heavier again. Water hammered against the roof while Lily sat cross-legged on the living room floor, building a cardboard habitat for a plastic Arctic fox. "You're late," she said without looking up. "Traffic. You already used that one yesterday." Spencer set his keys on the counter. "Then the city's consistent." Lily narrowed her eyes suspiciously but accepted the answer. There were moments when children sense the emotional weather of a room without understanding the forecast. Lily had inherited Amelia's intelligence, but not her appetite for confrontation. She watched Spencer quietly, the same way people watched rivers before storms. Dad, yeah, our court's expensive." The question landed softly. Spencer removed his work jacket slowly. "Sometimes. Mom said lawyers charge by the hour." "That's true. Do we have enough money?" Spencer looked at her then, at the uneven ponytail she had tied herself, at the marker stain on her thumb, at the tiny line between her eyebrows that only appeared when she was worried. He walked over and crouched beside her. "You don't need to think about money." "But are we okay?" Spencer nodded once. "We're okay." It was not entirely true, but it was true enough. Lily studied his face another second before returning to the fox habitat. Spencer went into the garage. The motion light flickered on overhead. Everything smelled faintly of wet concrete and motor oil. He knelt beside the shelf, moved aside 2 paint cans, and slid out the safe. Heavy steel, matte black, scratches near the keypad from years of use. For a moment he simply stared at it. 8 years. 8 years since he had locked those papers away after promising himself he would never use them unless he absolutely had to. Back then, the decision had felt merciful. Now it felt naive. The keypad beeped quietly beneath his fingers. Inside sat 3 folders. The first contained Lily's hospital records from Providence St. Vincent Medical Center. The second held fertility clinic documents. The third was thinner than the others. Photos. Spencer opened that one first. Not because it mattered legally, because memory arrived before strategy. The first picture showed Amelia sitting in a fertility clinic waiting room wearing an oversized gray sweater. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Spencer remembered that day clearly. The doctor had explained the results slowly, professionally. Poor ovarian reserve, repeated implantation failure, low probability of viable retrieval. Amelia had stared at the floor the entire drive home afterward. At a red light near Burnside Bridge, she had finally whispered, "You should have married someone less broken." Spencer had turned off the radio before answering. "You're not broken." Back then he had believed love could outvote pain. He closed the photo folder carefully. Then he opened the clinic records, Northwest Reproductive Medicine Center, patient files, consent agreements, embryology reports, pages stamped with signatures and dates. One document carried Amelia's signature beside a paragraph acknowledging the use of an anonymous donor egg. Another confirmed Spencer as the sole biological parent contributor among the intended parents. Rebecca Hale had been right. This was not a secret. It was a weapon. And Spencer hated that, because Lily had never been a technicality to him. She had been a child. His child. The fertility process had been brutal on Amelia. Hormone injections, failed cycles, silent car rides home from appointments where neither of them knew what to say anymore. After the second failed transfer, Amelia stopped buying baby clothes. After the third, she stopped entering the future tense altogether. Then the clinic proposed donor eggs. Spencer still remembered the expression on Amelia's face when the doctor explained it. Not anger, grief, the kind that arrived quietly and stayed. For weeks afterward, Amelia barely spoke at dinner. She slept with the television on. She avoided baby aisles in grocery stores like they were crime scenes. One night around 2 a.m, Spencer found her sitting alone on the back porch, wrapped in a blanket despite freezing rain. "I don't think she'll ever really be mine," Amelia had said. Spencer sat beside her. "She will." "You don't know that." "No," he admitted. "But I know you." Amelia looked at him then with exhausted eyes. "What if I can't love her right?" Spencer answered immediately. "You will." And for a while, she did. When Lily was born, Amelia cried before she even held her. Not small tears, violent ones. The nurse placed Lily against her chest and Amelia whispered, "Hi, baby," like the words had been trapped inside her body for years. Spencer had believed that moment fixed everything. Maybe that was his mistake. The garage door rattled suddenly from wind outside. Spencer blinked back into the present. He gathered the folders into a weatherproof document case and carried them inside. Lily was asleep on the couch again, Fox Habitat, abandoned beside her. A nature documentary still played softly on television. Snow leopards crossing mountains somewhere in Asia. Spencer covered Lily with a blanket before taking the case into the kitchen. At 8:42 p.m., Rebecca Hale called. "You have the records?" "Yes." "Good. Don't email anything yet." Spencer sat at the kitchen table. Rebecca continued, "I want originals preserved. We scan copies in office tomorrow." "Okay." There was a brief silence. Then Rebecca asked, "Did Amelia ever formally adopt Lily after birth?" "No." "You're certain?" "Yes." "Interesting." Spencer heard papers shifting on Rebecca's end. "In Oregon," she said carefully, "intentional parenthood still carries weight even without biological connection. But if she falsified documents or misrepresented material facts to the court, that changes things." Spencer rubbed tiredness from his eyes. "I never wanted this to become about biology." I know. No, you don't. Rebecca went quiet. Spencer looked toward the living room where Lily slept, curled beneath the blanket. She's Lily's mother, he said. Maybe not genetically. But Lily doesn't know another word for her. Rebecca's voice softened by exactly 1 degree. The court won't punish you for protecting your daughter's emotional stability. She's trying to take Lily away. Yes, Rebecca said. Which means protecting Amelia and protecting Lily are no longer the same thing. The sentence stayed with him after the call ended, because it was true, and because Spencer had spent years pretending it wasn't. At 10:11 p.m., another notification appeared on his phone. Instagram. He almost ignored it. Then he saw Lily's face in the preview image. Brandon Pierce had posted a photograph. Seattle waterfront behind them. Expensive restaurant. Amelia smiling beside him. Lily seated between them from the previous weekend. Caption, family is everything. Excited for new beginnings. Spencer stared at the screen. Not angry. Cold. The comments underneath arrived quickly. Beautiful family. You three look perfect together. Seattle already suits you guys. Spencer locked the phone without replying. Then he opened the black notebook again. Another entry. September 15th. Brandon publicly presenting himself online as Lily's father figure during active custody filing. He paused, then added another line beneath it. Lily has not been told full legal situation. The pen remained still in his hand afterward, because beneath the legal strategy and paperwork and careful documentation sat the real fear Spencer had refused to say aloud. If this kept escalating, Lily would eventually learn the truth. Not in a warm room, not carefully, not from love, from court filings, DNA tests, arguments between adults. Children rarely remembered the exact moment innocence disappeared. Adults did. Spencer remembered the night his own father packed a suitcase and never came back. He remembered pretending to sleep while listening to his mother cry in the kitchen. He remembered learning that adults often destroyed each other first and explained things to children second. He had sworn Lily would never experience that kind of fracture. Now he wasn't sure he could stop it anymore. A floorboard creaked behind him. Spencer turned. Lily stood in the hallway rubbing one eye. You're still awake. So are you. She walked into the kitchen quietly. Then she noticed the open document case on the table. Rows of papers. Medical forms, signatures, legal stamps. Is that court stuff? Spencer closed the folder gently. Adult stuff. Lily leaned against his arm. Mom says you're making everything difficult. The words were simple, but Spencer felt them land. He looked down at his daughter. What do you think? Lily was quiet for several seconds. Then she shrugged. You still make my lunches. Spencer exhaled once through his nose. A sound almost like laughter. Almost. Lily rested her head briefly against his shoulder before asking the question softly. Dad, if somebody isn't your real parent? Spencer's heartbeat slowed. Can they stop loving you? Outside rain struck the windows harder. Spencer looked at the sleeping darkness beyond the kitchen glass, then back at Lily. And for the first time since the custody petition arrived, fear moved visibly across his face. Spencer Griffin did not answer Lily's question immediately. The kitchen light cast a pale yellow glow across the table while rain rolled down the windows in crooked lines. Somewhere upstairs, the old heating vents clicked softly as the furnace turned on. Lily waited beside him in oversized pajama pants and socks that never matched. Children noticed hesitation faster than adults. Spencer chose his words carefully. No, he said at last. Love doesn't stop because of paperwork or blood or courts. Lily studied him. Then why are people acting weird because adults ruin simple things? Spencer thought. Instead, he said, sometimes grown-ups get scared, and scared people try to control things. Is Mom scared? Spencer looked away toward the dark sink window. I think your mom wants things to look a certain way. That answer seemed enough for Lily. For now. She yawned, leaned against him one more second, then padded back toward her bedroom, carrying her stuffed Arctic fox beneath one arm. Spencer remained at the table long after she disappeared upstairs. The document case sat beside him like a loaded weapon. At 6:10 the next morning, he drove Lily to school, through fog thick enough to blur the edges of traffic lights. Portland mornings always felt unfinished in September. Wet pavement, coffee lines outside cafes, cyclists moving through mist like ghosts. Lily ate half a granola bar while flipping through flashcards in the passenger seat. "Spell meteorologist," she said suddenly. Spencer kept his eyes on the road. "No, you don't know it. I know enough to avoid spelling it voluntarily. That's cheating. That's adulthood." Lily grinned despite herself. When they pulled into Cooper Mountain Elementary, Spencer noticed the black Mercedes before he saw Brandon Pierce standing beside it. Expensive camel coat, perfect haircut, coffee cup in hand. He looked like a luxury apartment brochure that learned to talk. Lily saw him too. Her shoulders tightened slightly. Brandon waved as Spencer parked. "Morning, kiddo." Lily opened the truck door slowly. Spencer got out with her. The cold air smelled like wet asphalt and pine trees. Brandon approached with an easy smile practiced on clients and waitresses. "Spencer," he said warmly, as if they were old friends meeting at a barbecue. "Didn't expect to see you this early." Spencer closed the truck door. "I bring my daughter to school." Brandon chuckled lightly. "Right. Of course." Lily adjusted her backpack straps. Brandon crouched slightly toward her. "Hey, guess what? Your mom and I found this amazing place near Seattle last night. Huge backyard. There's even room for a kayak rack." Lily glanced toward Spencer automatically before answering. "That's cool. You'd love it there." Spencer watched Brandon carefully, not emotionally, technically, the way he studied damaged machinery before deciding where the real failure point was. Brandon continued smiling. "We're thinking Bainbridge School District. Amelia says the academics are incredible." Spencer finally spoke. "Lily's current school seems fine." Brandon's expression flickered for half a second, small but real. "Well," Brandon said smoothly, "sometimes people outgrow things." Spencer looked directly at him. "Kids usually need stability more than upgrades." The silence after that stretched long enough for even Lily to notice. Brandon straightened his coat sleeve. "No need to get defensive. We all want what's best for her." There it was. Spencer heard it clearly. Lily heard it too. Her fingers tightened around one backpack strap. The school doors opened behind them as children flooded through the entrance. Spencer placed a hand lightly against Lily's shoulder. "Go ahead, Bug." She hesitated, then hugged him quickly around the waist before heading toward the building. Brandon watched her disappear inside. "You know," he said casually, "this whole thing would probably go smoother if you stopped fighting Amelia." Spencer remained still. "I'm not fighting her. Feels like you are." "No," Spencer said, "I'm documenting her." Brandon's smile faded another fraction. For the first time, Spencer saw irritation underneath the polish. Then Brandon laughed softly. "You really think a judge is going to pick an HVAC guy over Amelia?" Spencer looked at him without expression. "I think judges like facts." Brandon opened his mouth to respond, then stopped, because Spencer had already turned and walked back toward his truck. No anger, no threats, nothing Brandon could use later. Just dismissal. Inside the truck, Spencer sat motionless for several seconds before pulling away from the curb. His phone buzzed at the next red light. Rebecca Hale. He answered through Bluetooth. "You free at lunch?" she asked immediately. "Depends where." "My office." "That sounds expensive." "It will be if you keep making jokes instead of answering questions." Spencer almost smiled. "Yeah, I can come." At noon, Rebecca's conference table was covered with folders, original fertility clinic documents, school records, printed screenshots from Brandon's Instagram. Rebecca slid one photograph across the table. Brandon standing beside Lily at the Seattle waterfront. Family is everything. Spencer stared at it briefly. She authorized him as pickup contact without discussion, he said. I know. How Rebecca handed him another document. School administration changelog, time-stamped, electronically signed by Amelia. She added him 3 days before filing for full custody. Spencer's jaw shifted slightly. Rebecca leaned back in her chair. She's building an image, she said. Stable new household. Financially successful partner. Bigger home. Better schools. She's replacing me. She's trying to. Rebecca opened another folder. Here's the problem for her. Inside were copies of Amelia's sworn statements. Rebecca tapped one paragraph. She claims you've been emotionally detached and minimally involved in Lily's daily care. Spencer stared at the line. Not because it hurt, because it was stupid. Rebecca noticed his expression. That's the face of a man realizing someone lied badly. Spencer looked up. I know the name of Lily's dentist. Rebecca nodded once. Exactly. She slid a yellow legal pad toward him. I need details. Daily structure. Everything. For nearly 2 hours, Spencer answered questions. Wake-up times, medication schedules, favorite foods, teacher names, bedtime routines, Lily's allergies, which stuffed animal she slept with after nightmares, what songs calmed her during storms. Rebecca wrote constantly. Then finally she asked, what's Lily afraid of? Most Spencer answered immediately, being left. The room grew quiet. Rebecca stopped writing. Spencer looked down at his hands. She doesn't say it directly, he continued, but she checks doors at night. Since the divorce. Rebecca's voice lowered slightly. Did Amelia leave abruptly? Spencer inhaled slowly. The memory arrived clear and sharp. Suitcases near the doorway. Amelia crying while pretending not to. Lily asleep upstairs. Yeah, he said. How long? 3 weeks the first time. Rebecca's eyes narrowed. You never mentioned that. It didn't matter. It matters now. Spencer leaned back in the chair. No, he said quietly. It matters to the case. That's different. Rebecca studied him carefully then. Not as a client, as a man. You still protect her, she said. Spencer said nothing, because denying it would waste time. At 3:26 p.m., his phone buzzed again. Cooper Mountain Elementary. Spencer answered immediately. This is Spencer. A nervous female voice responded. Mr. Griffin, this is Linda from the front office. We had a small situation today. Spencer sat forward instantly. What happened? Lily is okay, Linda said quickly. But Mr. Pierce arrived during lunch, asking to sign her out early. Rebecca's eyes lifted sharply across the table. Spencer's voice remained calm. Was he authorized? Yes, technically, but Lily became upset when informed. Spencer's stomach tightened. What do you mean upset? She started crying and asked to call you first. Rebecca stopped writing entirely now. Linda continued carefully. Mr. Pierce left after we explained we couldn't release her during instructional hours without direct parent confirmation. Spencer looked toward the rain-streaked office window. When did Amelia request this? We weren't informed beforehand. Spencer closed his eyes briefly. Not from rage. Calculation. Rebecca mouthed silently. Document everything. Spencer understood. When I pick Lily up, he said calmly into the phone, I'd like copies of all sign-out requests and authorization changes. Of course, Mr. Griffin. After the call ended, Rebecca leaned forward slowly. She cried. Spencer nodded once. Rebecca's expression hardened. Good, she said. Spencer looked at her sharply. Rebecca clarified immediately, not that she cried. Good, that the school witnessed it. Spencer looked away again, because part of him hated that she was right. Rebecca gathered the folders into a neat stack. Mr. Griffin. She said people like Amelia and Brandon think perception wins custody cases. Doesn't it sometimes? Rebecca locked eyes with him until facts become heavier than appearances. Outside thunder rolled faintly over downtown Portland. Spencer stared at the fertility documents beside the custody filings, two completely different stories sitting inches apart on the same table. One built from presentation, the other from records. Rebecca tapped the DNA authorization form with one fingernail. We're scheduling the test this week. Spencer nodded. Then his phone vibrated once more. This time it was a text from Amelia. You're upsetting Lily. Stop making this harder. Spencer read the message carefully. Then for the first time since the custody battle began, he finally typed a response. Only one sentence. Don't send Brandon to my daughter's school again. 3 dots appeared instantly, then disappeared. No reply came after that. But Spencer knew something had shifted. Not emotionally, strategically. And somewhere beneath the rain and paperwork and quiet hostility growing between adults, Lily Griffin was beginning to realize the people around her were no longer pretending everything was normal. The first hearing took place on a Thursday morning beneath fluorescent courtroom lights that made everyone look slightly exhausted. Department 4B of the Multnomah County Courthouse smelled faintly of wet wool printer toner and old wood polish. Rain tapped steadily against the high windows while attorneys shuffled through folders at narrow tables. Spencer Griffin arrived 23 minutes early, not because Rebecca Hale had told him to, because Spencer arrived early for everything involving Lily. He wore the only suit he owned, dark charcoal, slightly loose around the shoulders, bought 7 years earlier for a cousin's funeral in Eugene. The cuff showed wear near the wrists, but the fabric was clean and pressed. His work boots were gone. In their place sat black dress shoes, polished carefully the night before at his kitchen table, while Lily colored beside him. Rebecca noticed immediately. You look uncomfortable, she said quietly. I fix air conditioners for a living. You'll survive a tie for one morning. Spencer adjusted the knot once. Across the courtroom, Amelia Ross entered with Brandon Pierce beside her. They looked prepared for photographs. Amelia wore a cream-colored coat over a fitted navy dress, hair perfectly straight, makeup subtle enough to appear effortless. Brandon carried a leather portfolio and placed a reassuring hand against the small of her back as they walked. They resembled a wealthy campaign advertisement for second chances. Several people in the courtroom glanced at them automatically, then glanced at Spencer. Rebecca noticed that too. She leaned toward him slightly. Let them underestimate you, she said. That's free. Amelia looked toward Spencer only once before taking her seat. No smile, no visible anger, just distance, the kind built carefully over time. Lily was not present. Rebecca had strongly opposed it. She's 8. She told the judge during pre-hearing discussions, not evidence. At 9:02 a.m., Judge Harold Bennett entered the courtroom, late 60s, steel gray hair, half-moon reading glasses, the face of a man who had spent decades listening to adults weaponize children. Everyone stood. Then the hearing began. Amelia's attorney spoke first. His name was Daniel Mercer, expensive suit, smooth voice, former corporate litigator who had transitioned into high-end family law after discovering wealthy divorces paid better than ethics. Your Honor, Mercer began this petition concerns the stability and emotional welfare of a minor child. Spencer watched without reacting. Mercer continued pacing slowly before the bench. Ms. Ross seeks only what is best for Lily Griffin. A consistent home environment, reliable financial support, access to superior educational opportunities in Seattle. Rebecca wrote notes calmly. Mercer glanced briefly toward Spencer. Unfortunately, Mr. Griffin's employment circumstances create significant unpredictability. Spencer's jaw tightened once, barely visible. HVAC contract work often involves irregular hours, Mercer continued. Physical labor, seasonal instability, limited flexibility for long-term developmental planning. Rebecca leaned toward Spencer without looking at him. Don't react. Mercer lowered his voice slightly. Furthermore, Your Honor, Ms. Ross has concerns regarding Mr. Griffin's emotional volatility during co-parenting interactions. That made Rebecca finally look up. Interesting, her expression said. Mercer handed documents to the clerk. Text communications and witness statements will demonstrate an increasingly hostile dynamic created by Mr. Griffin, since Ms. Ross informed him of her relocation plans. Spencer already knew what that meant. Selective screenshots, half-context conversations, words trimmed into weapons. Judge Bennett adjusted his glasses. Mr. Mercer, he said, has there been any allegation of physical abuse? No, Your Honor. Substance abuse? Number criminal activity? No. The judge nodded slowly. So this is fundamentally a custody and relocation dispute. Mercer smiled politely. Yes, Your Honor. Rebecca stood when it was her turn. No dramatic movements, no performance, just precision. Your Honor? She began. Opposing counsel has invested considerable energy into describing Mr. Griffin's income level, profession, and wardrobe, while presenting almost nothing regarding his actual parenting. A few quiet sounds moved through the courtroom. Rebecca ignored them. Mr. Griffin has maintained consistent daily care responsibilities for Lily Griffin for years. School transportation, medical appointments, educational support, meal preparation, overnight care during illness, extracurricular participation. She placed 3 thick binders on the evidence table, documented extensively. Mercer shifted slightly in his chair. Rebecca continued. The petitioner portrays my client as unstable while simultaneously attempting to authorize unrelated third parties to remove the child from school during active litigation. That made Judge Bennett look up. Mercer immediately stood. Objection to characterization. Rebecca slid a document forward before he finished. School authorization records signed electronically by Ms. Ross 3 days before filing for full custody. The judge examined the paper carefully. Mr. Pierce attempted school pickup, he asked. Rebecca nodded. Without prior co-parent discussion, Judge Bennett looked toward Amelia. For the first time that morning, her expression tightened slightly. Small, controlled, but real. Mercer recovered quickly. Your Honor, Mr. Pierce is Miss Ross's long-term partner. Rebecca responded immediately. Then he should understand boundaries involving a child already experiencing custodial stress. Silence settled briefly. Judge Bennett turned pages slowly. Then he looked toward Spencer directly for the first time. Mr. Griffin. Spencer stood. You work full-time? Yes, sir. What are your typical hours? Depends on emergency calls, usually 7 to 4, sometimes later during winter. Who cares for Lily? After school I do. The judge glanced down at the file. Your records indicate frequent medical involvement. Yes, sir. What pediatrician does she see in? Dr. Karen Feldman at Providence Pediatrics. Any current medications? Seasonal allergy medication, children's Claritin. What's her teacher's name, Mrs. Eleanor Whitman? Mercer interrupted carefully. Your Honor, familiarity with routine details does not necessarily establish superior custodial suitability. Judge Bennett looked over his glasses. No, he agreed calmly, but it establishes parenting. Mercer sat back down. Rebecca almost smiled. Almost. The hearing continued another 40 minutes. Financial disclosures, housing arrangements, proposed relocation logistics. Amelia spoke briefly regarding educational opportunities in Seattle and the emotional benefits of a healthier household environment. Her voice sounded calm enough to record professionally. Spencer listened without expression, Only once did something shift visibly across his face. Amelia said Lily needs consistency and emotional safety. Spencer lowered his eyes after that, because memory moved faster than restraint. Lily asleep on his chest during thunderstorms. Lily vomiting from flu at age 5 while he cleaned sheets at 3 in the morning. Lily crying in the back seat after Amelia missed another pickup. Emotional safety. Interesting phrase. At 10:11 a.m., Rebecca requested permission to introduce additional material related to parentage documentation under seal. Mercer objected instantly. Relevance. Rebecca remained calm. The petitioner's filings contain representations concerning biological and parental status that may require clarification before permanent custody determinations. That changed the air in the room. Amelia looked toward Rebecca sharply. Brandon's confident posture shifted almost imperceptibly beside her. Judge Bennett folded his hands. What exactly are we discussing? Ms. Hale. Rebecca chose her words carefully. We are discussing whether the court currently possesses complete information regarding the child's biological parentage and associated fertility agreements. Silence. Heavy this time. Mercer stood slowly. Your Honor, unless counsel intends to accuse my client of fraud, I intend. Rebecca interrupted smoothly to request official DNA confirmation and certified retrieval of fertility clinic records before this court proceeds further. Amelia's face lost color for half a second. Only half. But Spencer saw it, because unlike everyone else in the courtroom, he remembered the original signatures, the original promises. Judge Bennett removed his glasses completely now. He looked first at Rebecca, then at Mercer, then finally toward Amelia herself. Ms. Ross, he said evenly, is there a factual dispute regarding biological parentage relevant to this custody proceeding? Mercer answered, before Amelia could. Your Honor, Ms. Ross has functioned as Lily's mother since birth. Any attempt to reduce motherhood to genetics alone would be both legally and morally inappropriate, Rebecca responded instantly. Good thing that's not what I said. The room went still again. Judge Bennett looked down at the filing for a long moment. Then he spoke carefully. The court will order temporary preservation of all relevant fertility clinic records pending review. Mercer started to object. The judge raised one hand. In addition, he continued, DNA testing will be scheduled through court-approved channels. This time, even Brandon looked surprised. Spencer remained motionless, but beneath the table his fingers tightened slowly against the edge of his chair, because the moment had finally arrived. The sealed part of his life was entering public record. Judge Bennett continued, until further notice, existing custody arrangements remain temporarily unchanged. Neither party is authorized to relocate the child across state lines pending further proceedings. Amelia's jaw shifted subtly. First real crack. Mercer nodded stiffly. Rebecca simply wrote something in her notebook. The hearing adjourned at 10:37 a.m. People began standing. Paper shuffled. Chairs scraped against hardwood floors. Spencer gathered his documents slowly. Across the aisle, Brandon leaned toward Amelia, speaking in low, urgent tones. Amelia kept her eyes fixed forward. Rebecca closed her binder. That went better than expected. Spencer looked toward the far end of the courtroom. I didn't want this becoming public. Rebecca's expression remained practical. It already is. As they walked toward the exit, Mercer intercepted them near the hallway doors. Interesting strategy, he said smoothly to Rebecca. You too. Mercer glanced toward Spencer. You really want to drag a child through DNA litigation? Spencer answered before Rebecca could. No, he said quietly. I wanted to raise my daughter. Mercer's polished expression held for another second, then faded slightly. Outside the courthouse, rain hammered the sidewalks hard enough to blur traffic across the street. Rebecca opened her umbrella. Get ready, she said, because Amelia didn't expect resistance. Spencer looked back once toward the courthouse entrance, toward the building where secrets had just begun turning into evidence. Then his phone vibrated. A text from Amelia. Only 4 words. How dare you do this? Spencer stared at the message while cold rain splashed against his shoes. Then he locked the screen without replying. But for the first time since the custody battle began, he realized something important. Amelia was no longer fully in control of the story. 3 days after the hearing, Spencer Griffin drove across Portland beneath a sky the color of wet cement. Traffic crawled along Highway 26 while rain drifted sideways across the windshield. The document case sat strapped into the passenger seat beside him like another person. At 8:43 a.m., he pulled into the parking structure of Northwest Reproductive Medicine Center. The building looked unchanged. Same polished glass entrance, same carefully trimmed hedges, same quiet lobby designed to feel calm for people whose lives often were not. Spencer stood inside the elevator with Rebecca Hale beside him, while soft piano music played overhead. Couples entered and exited holding folders, coffee cups hope exhaustion. Some looked terrified, others looked practiced. Spencer recognized both expressions. First time back, Rebecca asked, "Yes, how long?" "Almost 9 years." Rebecca nodded once and said nothing more. The clinic receptionist greeted them with the controlled warmth common to medical offices dealing daily with grief. "Mr. Griffin, Ms. Hale, Ms. Darlene Foster from Records Management will meet you shortly." They waited beneath framed photographs of babies mailed in by former patients. Tiny smiling faces, holiday cards, thank you notes, proof that science sometimes succeeded where nature didn't. Spencer avoided looking at them too long. At 9:02 a.m., a woman in her 60s approached, carrying a tablet and a lanyard full of key cards. "Mr. Griffin." "Yeah, Darlene Foster. I remember your case." That surprised him. Darlene smiled faintly. "You and Amelia came in during winter storms almost every appointment. Hard to forget." Something tightened briefly in Spencer's chest because memory worked differently in places where people once hoped together. Darlene led them through secured hallways toward the record department. Rebecca walked slightly ahead, already focused. "Ms. Foster," she said, "we're requesting certified retrieval of all consent agreements, donor records, embryology reports, and legal acknowledgments related to Lily Griffin's birth." Darlene nodded carefully. "We received the court preservation order yesterday. Any issues of hesitation? Small." Rebecca noticed immediately. "Ms. Foster." Darlene lowered her voice slightly. "Someone already requested access recently." Spencer looked up. "When about 3 weeks ago." Rebecca stopped walking. "Who?" Darlene checked her tablet. "Amelia Ross." Silence settled instantly. Not surprise. Confirmation. Rebecca's expression hardened by 1 degree. What specifically did she request full archived retrieval? And was she granted access partial copies only? Darlene answered. Some files require dual-party authorization because of reproductive material documentation. Spencer stared ahead at the pale hallway walls. 3 weeks ago, before the custody filing, before Seattle discussions became serious, Amelia had already been preparing. Darlene unlocked a records room and guided them inside. Metal shelving lined every wall. Banker boxes stacked with coded labels. Quiet fluorescent lights overhead. Nothing emotional about the room, just storage. But Spencer felt memory pressing against him anyway. The fertility process had consumed almost 4 years of their marriage. Appointments before sunrise. Medication alarms, blood tests, failed phone calls from nurses. The silence after negative pregnancy results had always been worst. Amelia stopped crying after the 2nd year. That had frightened Spencer more than the tears. Darlene returned carrying 2 thick archive folders, everything we have physically stored. Rebecca immediately began reviewing documents. Spencer remained standing. Then Darlene opened the top folder carefully. Inside sat forms with signatures Spencer had not seen in nearly a decade. Consent acknowledgments, egg donor agreements, parental designation paperwork. And there it was, Amelia's signature, clean, elegant, confident. A line directly above it read, "Intended mother acknowledges absence of genetic relationship to resulting embryo." Rebecca looked at Spencer briefly. He said nothing, because the page already spoke loudly enough. Darlene continued organizing documents across the table. "Your case involved anonymous donor material," she explained professionally. "Embryo viability rates were actually very strong." Spencer barely heard her. His attention remained fixed on another page farther down the stack. "An emergency psychological consultation request. Amelia Ross. 3 weeks before embryo transfer." Rebecca noticed it too. "What's this?" Darlene adjusted her glasses. "Standard mental health review. Some patients request additional counseling before donor implantation." Rebecca skimmed the report, then paused. "Interesting." Spencer recognized that expression now. What Rebecca slid the paper toward him. One paragraph had been highlighted years earlier by clinic staff. "Patient expresses fear that non-biological connection may impair future maternal bonding." Spencer looked away almost immediately, not because it shocked him, because he remembered the night afterward. Amelia sitting in their bathroom, crying silently, while holding hormone injection instructions in trembling hands. "What if the baby always feels yours more than mine?" she had asked. Spencer had knelt beside her and answered without hesitation. "She'll know who loves her." At the time he believed love solved insecurity. Now he understood insecurity often waited patiently beneath love until pressure exposed it again. Rebecca continued reviewing pages rapidly, then suddenly stopped, her eyes narrowed. "Ms. Foster," she said evenly, "was this file altered recently?" Darlene frowned. "What do you mean?" Rebecca turned one page around, paperclip indentation marks, a missing staple hole alignment, slight discoloration near the edge. Someone had removed a document. Recently. Darlene stepped closer. "Oh," Rebecca's voice sharpened. "There should be another attachment here." Darlene checked the archive coding sheet quickly. "Yes," she said slowly. "There should." Spencer felt something cold move through his stomach. What attachment? Darlene read from the inventory log. Supplemental legal acknowledgement regarding intended parental status and biological disclosure. Rebecca looked directly at Spencer. "That's not a minor omission." "No," Spencer said quietly. "It isn't." Darlene looked unsettled now. "I can request digital backup retrieval." "Do that," Rebecca said immediately. Darlene hurried toward another terminal room. Rebecca turned back to Spencer. "She's sanitizing the narrative." Spencer stared at the missing section. "Can she get away with that?" Rebecca's expression remained flat. "Not if we prove intentional alteration." The room felt colder suddenly, not emotionally, institutionally, like the moment paperwork stopped being administrative and became dangerous. Spencer rubbed a hand slowly across the back of his neck. "I never wanted Lily to know any of this." Rebecca closed one folder carefully. "You still think Amelia's protecting Lily?" She raised her. Rebecca looked at him sharply. "And now she's trying to erase you." The words landed harder because they were factual, not dramatic. Spencer sat down finally. For several minutes neither spoke while rain tapped faintly against distant windows somewhere beyond the record department. Then Darlene returned carrying printed pages. "I found the digital archive." Rebecca stood immediately. The replacement pages slid onto the table. There it was, complete, certified, original timestamps intact, Amelia Ross's signature beneath another acknowledgement clause. In the event of custodial dispute, all parties acknowledged Spencer Griffin as sole biological parent contributor. The room went silent. Even Darlene seemed uncomfortable reading it. Rebecca carefully organized the pages into chronological order. Then she noticed something else. A request form, recent, submitted electronically. By Amelia. Rebecca read it aloud quietly. Request to amend retrieval packet for legal consultation purposes. Spencer's eyes lifted. Amend. Rebecca handed him the page. One checkbox had been selected. Exclude donor origin disclosure attachments unless court ordered. Spencer stared at the line for several seconds. Not because Amelia wanted privacy. He understood privacy. What unsettled him was timing. 3 weeks before filing for full custody. 3 weeks before introducing Brandon more aggressively into Lily's life. 3 weeks before the relocation proposal. Rebecca leaned back slowly. She knew this would matter. Spencer looked down at the documents spread across the table like dissected history. I think she's scared. Rebecca's expression sharpened again. She should be. No. Spencer shook his head once. Not of court. He thought about Lily asking whether people stopped loving children who weren't biologically theirs, about Brandon's social media photos, about Amelia trying to build a perfect replacement family before custody hearings even started. Then another memory surfaced. 2 years earlier, Lily asleep upstairs, Amelia standing in the kitchen holding a wine glass too tightly. What if someday she loves you more? Amelia had asked quietly. Spencer remembered answering without thinking. She already loves you. But maybe Amelia had never believed him. Rebecca closed the folders decisively. We're copying everything today. Spencer nodded. Then what? Then we prepare for war. Spencer disliked the word immediately, because war implied winners, and custody battles rarely had those. At 11:47 a.m., his phone vibrated. A message from Cooper Mountain Elementary. Reminder parent art night. Friday at 6 p.m. Spencer stared at it longer than necessary. Simple school event. Construction paper projects, juice boxes, normal life still trying to exist in the middle of legal destruction. Rebecca noticed the look on his face. What? Nothing. That usually means something. Spencer locked his phone. Lily has art night Friday. Rebecca gathered the certified records into a secure envelope. Then go to art night. Spencer looked at the fertility documents again. The signatures. The missing pages. The proof Amelia had already tried shaping the evidence before court ever demanded it. Rebecca sealed the envelope. For now, she said quietly, this stays between attorneys and the judge. Spencer nodded once, but deep down another realization had already begun settling into place. The closer they moved toward the truth legally, the closer Lily moved toward hearing it too. And Spencer still had no idea how to protect her from that. Friday evening arrived colder than the rest of the week. Rainwater collected in silver pools across the Cooper Mountain Elementary parking lot, while paper lanterns hung crookedly inside the school cafeteria for parent art night. Children ran through hallways carrying glitter-covered projects and cups of watered-down fruit punch. Teachers smiled with the exhausted determination unique to elementary schools, trying to create memories on limited budgets. Spencer Griffin carried Lily's fox sculpture carefully with both hands. Construction paper trees surrounded the shoebox habitat. Cotton balls served as snow. One side had partially collapsed because Lily used too much glue. It's leaning, Spencer said. It's called artistic instability. That sounds expensive, too. Lily grinned faintly. For the first time all week, she almost looked relaxed. Spencer noticed immediately how tightly she stayed near him inside the crowded cafeteria. Children usually drifted toward friends during school events. Lily kept checking to make sure he remained visible. The custody battle was already leaking into her body language. Mrs. Eleanor Whitman approached near the art tables carrying a clipboard and a coffee mug decorated with crayons. She was in her 50s with tired eyes and the calm voice of someone who had spent decades handling emotional emergencies involving second graders. "Mr. Griffin," she said warmly. "Glad you made it. Wouldn't miss it." Mrs. Whitman crouched beside Lily's project. "Oh, wow. Arctic foxes. They survive winter better than people," Lily answered. Mrs. Whitman laughed softly. "Well, this one's definitely determined." Then her attention shifted subtly toward Spencer, a quieter expression. Concern, hidden beneath professionalism. "Could I speak with you for a second?" Spencer nodded. Lily immediately looked nervous. "It's okay, Bug," he said. "Stay near the cookies. Avoid anything neon blue. That's the best frosting. That's industrial chemicals." Lily wandered reluctantly toward the refreshment table while Spencer stepped aside with Mrs. Whitman near the hallway entrance. The teacher lowered her voice. "She's been having a hard week." Spencer looked back toward Lily automatically. "I figured." Mrs. Whitman hesitated carefully. "There have been conversations at school. What kind children overhear adults? Parents talk during pickup." She paused. "Lily got into an argument Wednesday because another student said she was moving away." Spencer's jaw tightened slightly. "She didn't mention it. She's trying not to upset you." That landed harder than he expected. Mrs. Whitman continued gently. "She also became distressed yesterday when Mr. Pierce arrived unexpectedly. Spencer kept his expression neutral. She asked if you were coming." The hallway suddenly felt smaller, louder. "I'm sorry," Mrs. Whitman added. "I know this isn't easy." Spencer nodded once. "Thank you for telling me." Mrs. Whitman studied him carefully for another second. Then she said something unexpected. "She talks about you constantly, you know." Spencer looked up. "She does." Mrs. Whitman smiled faintly. "You're in almost every story she writes." Before Spencer could answer, movement near the cafeteria doors caught his attention. Amelia Ross had arrived, and Brandon Pierce was beside her. Amelia wore a long cream coat and dark boots. Brandon carried a bakery box tied with string, like he was arriving at a neighborhood fundraiser instead of a contested custody situation. Several parents greeted them immediately. Amelia slipped into social interaction effortlessly. Smiling, warm hand touches, controlled laughter. Brandon looked equally comfortable. Spencer watched Lily notice them from across the cafeteria. Her shoulders stiffened instantly. Children rarely lied with posture. Amelia crossed the room smoothly. "Hi, sweetheart." Lily hugged her automatically. Then Amelia looked toward Spencer. "Didn't know you were staying long." "Parent night," Spencer replied calmly. Seemed relevant. Brandon stepped in beside Amelia with easy confidence. "Hey, Spencer." Spencer nodded once. No handshake, no invitation. Brandon held out the bakery box toward Lily. Triple chocolate cupcakes from St. Cupcake downtown. Lily accepted the box carefully. "Thanks. You want to show us your project?" Lily glanced toward Spencer before answering. That tiny pause did not escape Amelia. Or Spencer. They walked toward the art display tables together. To outsiders, they probably looked functional, modern co-parents navigating transition. Nobody in the cafeteria could see the legal filings sitting in courthouse folders downtown. Nobody could hear the arguments hidden beneath polite voices. Brandon studied Lily's fox habitat. "This is awesome," he said. "You know, there's an art and science academy near Bainbridge Island that would love this kind of creativity." Amelia gave him a quick glance. Too late. The damage already landed. Lily's expression closed immediately. Spencer noticed it. So did Mrs. Whitman from across the room. Brandon continued anyway. "They have marine biology programs for kids your age. Kayaking, too." Lily looked down at the shoebox habitat. "My school already has art." The answer was quiet. Brandon smiled lightly. "Sure, but bigger schools have bigger opportunities." Spencer finally spoke. "She's 8. Brandon laughed softly. And kids aren't startups." The air shifted again. Amelia folded her arms. "Everything doesn't have to become an argument." Spencer looked at her directly, then stopped recruiting. For a moment, nobody spoke. The cafeteria noise around them suddenly felt distant. Lily stared at the fox habitat. Amelia lowered her voice sharply. "You're making this uncomfortable." Spencer answered calmly. "No, I'm refusing to pretend." That hit harder because Amelia understood exactly what he meant. Years of pretending. Pretending Brandon's involvement wasn't escalating. Pretending Seattle was still hypothetical. Pretending Lily wasn't terrified. Amelia looked toward Lily and immediately softened her tone. "Sweetheart, Brandon's just trying to be supportive." Lily nodded too fast. A survival response. Spencer recognized it instantly. Children learned emotional navigation earlier than adults realized. Mrs. Whitman approached again before the silence stretched further. "Lily," she said brightly, "the 5th grade band is about to play." "Want to help me pass out programs?" Relief crossed Lily's face. "Okay." She hurried away beside her teacher. The second she disappeared, Brandon's smile faded completely. "You need to stop treating me like the enemy." Spencer looked at him. "You inserted yourself into my daughter's custody case. I'm part of Amelia's life. That's different." Amelia exhaled sharply. "Spencer, this hostility is exactly why we're here." He looked at her quietly. "No," he said. "We're here because you filed paperwork before having conversations." Amelia crossed her arms tighter. "You forced this." That almost made Spencer laugh, almost. Instead, he asked, "Did I force you to contact the fertility clinic too?" The reaction was immediate, tiny, but visible. Amelia's face changed for less than a second. Brandon looked between them. "What fertility clinic?" Silence. Interesting silence. Spencer noticed it first. Then Brandon did too. Amelia recovered quickly. "Not here." Brandon frowned slightly. "What's he talking about? Nothing relevant." Spencer watched carefully now, because something important had just surfaced. Brandon didn't know, at least not fully. Amelia stepped closer to Spencer, lowering her voice. "You really want to expose private medical history publicly?" Spencer answered just as quietly. "You already exposed it when you started rewriting facts." Amelia's eyes flashed briefly. "There are things Lily never needs to hear." Spencer looked toward the cafeteria where Lily stood beside the band students holding paper programs against her chest. "I agree," he said. That answer seemed to hit Amelia harder than anger would have, because she expected retaliation, not restraint. Brandon interrupted again. "What exactly is going on?" Neither answered him, and that silence finally cracked his confidence. A little, enough for Spencer to notice. Before anyone could continue, Lily suddenly appeared beside them again. Her eyes were red, not dramatic crying, worse, the controlled kind. Mrs. Whitman followed close behind, looking concerned. "What happened?" Spencer asked immediately. Lily shook her head. "Nothing." Mrs. Whitman spoke gently. Another student said some unkind things. Lily stared at the floor. Spencer crouched slightly. "What things?" Lily's voice barely came out. She said, "Brandon's going to replace you when we move." The cafeteria noise disappeared completely for Spencer after that, not emotionally, mechanically, like his brain shut doors to focus on one thing at a time. He looked at Lily first. Only Lily. "You listen to me carefully," he said quietly. She nodded without raising her eyes. "Nobody replaces anybody." Amelia stepped forward. "Lily." But Lily suddenly moved closer to Spencer instead. Tiny movement, massive meaning. Brandon saw it. Amelia saw it too. Spencer placed one steady hand against Lily's shoulder. "We're leaving." Amelia frowned immediately. "She just got here. She's done. You can't keep pulling her away every time something gets uncomfortable." Spencer stood slowly. "No," he said calmly, "but I can remove my daughter from situations hurting her." Amelia's face hardened again. For one dangerous second, it looked like she might argue publicly. Then she noticed parents nearby watching. So she smiled instead. Tight, controlled, artificial. Fine, she said. We'll talk later. Spencer nodded once, then took Lily's fox habitat in one hand and Lily's backpack in the other. As they walked toward the exit, Lily quietly slipped her hand into his. Outside, cold rain hit the pavement hard enough to splash around their shoes. They sat inside the truck for several moments before Spencer started the engine. Lily stared through the fogged window, then finally whispered the question she had been carrying all evening. "Dad." Spencer looked at her. "If Mom says Brandon's part of the family now," her voice cracked slightly, "does that mean you aren't?" Spencer's chest tightened so sharply it almost felt physical. Rain hammered against the windshield. Traffic lights reflected red across wet glass. And for the first time since this entire custody battle began, Spencer realized something terrifying. Lily was no longer just witnessing the fight. She was beginning to believe it. Spencer Griffin did not answer Lily immediately in the truck that night. Rain rolled heavily across the windshield while the heater hummed low beneath the dashboard. Outside, parents hurried through the parking lot, carrying glitter-covered school projects beneath umbrellas that flipped inside out from the wind. Inside the truck, everything felt still. Lily sat curled against the passenger door, holding the fox habitat in her lap. Spencer finally turned toward her. "You know what family is." Lily shrugged weakly. "People who stay." The answer hit him harder than anything Amelia's attorneys had said in court. Spencer nodded once. "Yeah," he said quietly. "That's exactly what family is." Lily looked down at the bent cardboard trees inside her project. "Then why does it feel like everybody keeps leaving?" Spencer had no clean answer for that. Adults liked pretending children couldn't recognize abandonment unless someone used the word directly. But children understood emotional distance long before vocabulary caught up. He started the truck. "Let's get food. I'm not hungry." "That's unfortunate because I already decided." Lily almost smiled. Almost. 20 minutes later, they sat inside Maple Street Grill, a narrow diner tucked beside an auto parts store off Canyon Road. The booths were cracked red vinyl. Country music played softly overhead. The waitress called everyone honey, regardless of age. Spencer and Lily had been coming there since she was 4. Routine mattered, especially when everything else shifted. Lily stirred fries through ketchup without eating them. Spencer watched quietly from across the booth. "You know," he said eventually, "when you were little you used to scream every time I vacuumed." Lily frowned. "I did not." "You absolutely did." "Why? You thought the vacuum was hunting you." "That sounds reasonable." Spencer nodded seriously. "For 6 months I had to carry you around while vacuuming with one arm." That finally earned a small laugh. "Good. Not enough, but good." The waitress arrived with grilled cheese sandwiches. Lily picked at hers slowly. Then she asked the question again. "Is Brandon trying to replace you?" Spencer leaned back against the booth. "No, but he acts like it." "Yes." Lily looked confused. Children hated contradictions. Spencer chose his words carefully. "Adults sometimes try to force relationships before trust exists." "Why? Because they want things to feel official." Lily frowned down at her plate. "I don't want another dad." The sentence came out quietly, not dramatic, honest. Spencer looked toward the rain outside the diner windows before answering. "You don't need another one." Lily nodded once and finally took a bite of her sandwich. That mattered more than people realized. Children ate when they felt safe. At 10:13 p.m., after Lily fell asleep at home with the television still on, Spencer sat alone at the kitchen table staring at the unopened envelope Rebecca Hale had dropped off earlier that evening. DNA authorization packet. Court approved. Official testing scheduled Monday morning. The envelope remained untouched beside his coffee mug for almost an hour. Not because Spencer doubted the results, he knew the results already. But paper changed things. Paper became evidence. Evidence became court record. and court records eventually became conversations children overheard. At 11:02 p.m., his phone rang. "Rebecca, you didn't open it yet, did you?" Spencer glanced at the envelope. "No, I figured. You can hear that over the phone. I can hear hesitation over the phone." Spencer rubbed tiredness from his face. "She's starting to notice." "Lily." "Yes." Rebecca was quiet for a moment. She was always going to. "I wanted more time." Time for what Spencer looked toward the dark hallway leading to Lily's room. For Amelia to stop. The silence after that lasted several seconds. Then Rebecca answered carefully. "Spencer, people who are willing to falsify narratives usually don't stop voluntarily." He knew that. But knowing something logically and accepting it emotionally were different jobs entirely. Rebecca continued. "Tomorrow morning I'm filing motions regarding the altered fertility records." She'll deny it. She'll have to. And Brandon Rebecca almost sounded amused. "What about him? I don't think he knows." That could become useful. Spencer disliked the word immediately. Useful. As if people were tools instead of damage waiting to happen. "I don't want this uglier than it already is." Rebecca's voice sharpened slightly. "Then you should have filed for custody first." That ended the discussion. Because she was right. Spencer had spent years assuming restraint created peace. Now he was learning restraint sometimes only created opportunity for louder people. Monday morning arrived cold and bright for the first time in days. No rain, just pale Oregon sunlight reflecting off wet pavement outside the court-approved DNA testing facility near downtown Portland. Lily stayed at school while Spencer entered the clinic alone. The waiting room smelled sterile and over-air conditioned. A television mounted in the corner played muted daytime news beneath scrolling stock prices. Spencer signed forms mechanically. Legal identification, chain of custody acknowledgement, parental verification. The technician assigned to his case was a woman in blue scrubs named Cynthia. "Court order?" she asked professionally. "Yes." She glanced at the paperwork briefly. Then her expression shifted almost invisibly. Recognition, not of him, of the situation, custody disputes, DNA testing, children trapped in adult warfare. She had probably seen hundreds. "Should only take a few minutes," Cynthia said gently. Spencer sat while she prepared sterile swabs. The process itself felt insultingly simple. A cotton swab inside the cheek, another signature, another sealed envelope. Years of emotional history reduced to laboratory procedure. Cynthia labeled the sample carefully. Results usually processed within 72 hours. Spencer nodded, then asked something he hadn't planned to. "Do people ever regret finding things out?" Cynthia paused. Medical professionals learned quickly which questions weren't really medical. "All the time," she answered honestly. Spencer looked at the sealed evidence packet on the counter, but sometimes Cynthia added quietly, "Truth matters, even when it hurts." Outside the clinic, Spencer stood beside his truck for several moments before driving away. Downtown traffic moved around him in blurred noise. Construction crews, delivery vans, business lunches. Ordinary Monday life continuing while his family sat suspended above a legal cliff. At 2:16 p.m., his phone buzzed. "Yes, Rebecca, we've got another problem." Spencer immediately pulled into a grocery store parking lot. "What happened?" Amelia filed an emergency motion. His chest tightened. "On what grounds she claims you're emotionally manipulating Lily and escalating instability through ongoing litigation tactics." Spencer stared through the windshield. "That's not even specific. It doesn't need to be initially. Emergency filings are about urgency, not quality." "What does she want?" Rebecca's voice cooled further. "Temporary restrictions on unsupervised contact pending psychological review." The words landed like physical impact. Spencer's hand tightened around the steering wheel. "She wants supervised visitation." "Yes. For what reason?" Fear-based language mostly. Rebecca paused. and she included a statement from Brandon. Spencer closed his eyes briefly. What statement? That Lily appears anxious and emotionally overwhelmed after spending time with you. Something cold moved through Spencer then. Not rage, precision. Because now Brandon had formally inserted himself into court proceedings. Rebecca continued. The hearing request likely won't succeed fully, but Amelia's trying to create momentum before DNA results arrive. Spencer looked toward the school pickup time displayed on the dashboard clock. 2:23 p.m. She knows the results are coming. Yes, Rebecca said, and she's panicking. That word stayed with him, panicking, because until now Spencer had still been framing Amelia's actions as ambition, control, image management. But panic implied fear, fear of exposure, fear of losing, fear of truth. At 3:04 p.m., Spencer parked outside Cooper Mountain Elementary. Children poured from the front entrance beneath bright afternoon sunlight. Lily spotted him immediately and ran toward the truck carrying a folded drawing. Look, she said breathlessly after climbing inside. Mrs. Whitman says wolves stay together in packs because they protect each other. She unfolded the picture, a wolf standing beside a smaller one beneath snow-covered trees. Spencer stared at it quietly. Then Lily pointed toward the larger wolf. That one's you. Spencer swallowed once. And the little wolf, that's obviously me. Obviously. Lily smiled faintly. Then her expression changed. Mom called during the lunch again. Spencer felt it immediately. What did she say? Lily hesitated. She asked if I'd feel safer talking to a counselor. There it was, the beginning. Carefully constructed concern, paper trails, emotional narratives, the groundwork for supervised visitation requests. Spencer kept his voice level. And what did you say? Lily looked out the window. I asked why everybody keeps talking like something's wrong with you. The sentence hollowed the air inside the truck. Outside, parents loaded children into SUVs beneath bright afternoon light. Ordinary life. Normal Monday. But Spencer suddenly understood the next phase clearly. This was no longer just a custody fight. Amelia was trying to establish a version of reality, one where Spencer Griffin slowly became unsafe on paper before anyone noticed it happening. And sitting beside him in the passenger seat was the only person who could truly be damaged by it. The emergency hearing was scheduled less than 48 hours later. Family courts moved slowly until someone used words like unsafe, unstable, or psychological harm. Then calendars opened fast. At 7:12 a.m. Wednesday morning, Spencer Griffin sat alone at his kitchen table reading Amelia's emergency motion, while coffee cooled untouched beside him. Outside fog drifted low across the Beaverton neighborhood. Lawn sprinklers clicked rhythmically somewhere down the street. Inside the filing, Amelia's language had become sharper. Lily has exhibited heightened anxiety after returning from respondent's residence. Respondent appears emotionally fixated on litigation. Child has expressed confusion and fear regarding ongoing conflict initiated by respondent. Spencer read every line twice, not because he believed them, because accuracy mattered. Lily entered the kitchen wearing pajama pants and carrying her stuffed Arctic fox beneath one arm. You're doing the stare thing again. Spencer looked up. What stare thing? The one where your face looks like taxes. That almost pulled a smile from him. Almost. Lily climbed onto the stool beside him and stole half his toast, automatically. Do I have school today? Unless you've secretly become a doctor. Could happen. Not before third grade. She chewed quietly for a moment. Then she noticed the paperwork. More court stuff. Yeah. Bad. Spencer folded the motion closed before answering. Complicated. Lily nodded like someone much older. That frightened him more every day. Children should not become emotionally bilingual in legal tension. At 8:31 a.m., Spencer dropped Lily at school. She hugged him longer than usual before leaving the truck, not clinging, checking, making sure he was still there. Spencer watched her disappear inside the building before driving downtown toward Rebecca Hale's office. Rain had returned overnight. Portland looked muted again. Wet sidewalks, gray sky, steam rising from coffee carts outside office towers. Rebecca already had the conference room prepared when he arrived. Stacks of highlighted filings covered the table. Yellow sticky notes marked contradictions across Amelia's statements. Rebecca slid one page toward him immediately. Read paragraph 6. Spencer scanned the text. Petitioner believes respondent's recent behavior demonstrates escalating emotional instability. He looked up. She doesn't even define behavior. She doesn't need specifics initially, Rebecca said. She needs concern. Spencer leaned back. So now concern becomes evidence. In family court sometimes. Rebecca opened another folder. Fortunately for us, she's overreaching. She tapped several printed screenshots, dashcam timestamps, school records, text logs. You documented enough that her timeline is collapsing. Spencer rubbed a hand slowly over his jaw. And Rebecca handed him another document, a sworn declaration signed by Brandon Pierce. Spencer read silently. Lily appears nervous after extended stays with Spencer Griffin. Mr. Griffin demonstrates emotionally rigid behavior patterns. I fear the current environment is psychologically unhealthy. Spencer finished the page without visible reaction. Then he set it down carefully. He met my daughter 6 months ago. Rebecca nodded. And now he's submitting psychological observations to a court. Something dangerous flickered briefly behind Spencer's calm expression. Rebecca noticed. Good, she said quietly. Spencer looked at her. That anger. Keep it controlled. Judges trust contained men more than explosive ones. He exhaled slowly through his nose. I'm not angry. Rebecca raised an eyebrow. That's worse. At 10:04 a.m., they entered Department 4B again. The courtroom felt colder this time, tighter. Emergency hearings always carried different energy. Less performance, more urgency. Amelia sat beside Daniel Mercer wearing a pale gray suit. Brandon occupied the second row behind them again. This time Spencer noticed something new. Brandon looked tired. Not physically, strategically. Like someone beginning to realize complicated situations were less glamorous than social media captions. Judge Bennett entered promptly. Counsel, he said while sitting, I've reviewed the emergency motion. Mercer stood first. Your Honor, this is fundamentally about protecting a child experiencing escalating emotional distress. Rebecca's pen stopped moving instantly. Mercer continued. Since litigation began, Lily Griffin has reportedly exhibited anxiety symptoms, confusion regarding parental identity, and distress during transitions between households. Spencer watched Amelia carefully while Mercer spoke. She kept her eyes lowered toward the table, controlled, professional. But he noticed her fingers tightening around a pen whenever Lily's name surfaced. Mercer gestured toward Brandon. Mr. Pierce has additionally observed concerning behavioral withdrawal patterns after the child spends extended time with respondent. Judge Bennett looked over his glasses. Mr. Pierce is not a parent. Mercer recovered smoothly. No, Your Honor, but he is a consistent adult presence in the child's life. Rebecca stood immediately afterward. Consistent for approximately 6 months, she corrected. Mercer ignored her. Rebecca approached the evidence table calmly. Your Honor, opposing counsel presents emotional conclusions unsupported by factual context. She handed documents to the clerk. These include school attendance reports, teacher communications, documented parenting schedules, and direct communication records contradicting claims of instability. Judge Bennett reviewed several pages silently. Rebecca continued. We also possess evidence demonstrating the petitioner attempted unauthorized narrative shaping involving school access, parent role substitution, and selective disclosure of fertility documentation. Mercer objected instantly. Counsel continues implying misconduct without adjudicated findings. Rebecca did not even turn toward him. I'm implying patterns. That line hung in the room. Judge Bennett looked toward Spencer. Mr. Griffin? Spencer stood. Have you discussed ongoing litigation details with Lily? No, sir. Have you spoken negatively about Ms. Ross in the child's presence? No. Has the child asked questions regarding the dispute? Yes. How have you responded? Spencer thought carefully before answering. I tell her adult problems aren't her responsibility. Judge Bennett nodded once. Then Mercer approached for questioning. Mr. Griffin, he began smoothly, would you describe yourself as emotionally expressive? Rebecca almost rolled her eyes. Spencer answered calmly. No. So you're reserved. Yes. Detached. Noma, Mercer smiled slightly. Isn't it true that Lily has recently become more anxious while in your care? No. Mercer lifted a document. She cried during parent art night, correct? Spencer looked directly at him. After another student said I was being replaced. A brief silence followed. Mercer shifted direction. You initiated discussions involving fertility records and biological parentage. My attorney did, but you approved it. Yes. Mercer stepped closer. And you understood that such discussions could emotionally destabilize a child. Spencer remained still. I understood false narratives already were. Mercer paused. Rebecca watched carefully now. Mercer tried another angle. Mr. Griffin, isn't it possible your fixation on proving biological parenthood is motivated by resentment toward Miss Ross? There it was. The trap. Spencer knew it immediately. Rebecca stayed silent deliberately. Let him answer. Spencer looked toward the bench before speaking. I spent 8 years making sure Lily never felt different because of biology. The courtroom quieted. He continued. I didn't bring genetics into this case to hurt Amelia. I brought it because Amelia asked the court to erase me. Even Mercer stopped moving for a second. Judge Bennett leaned back slowly. Spencer's voice never rose. That mattered more. Because calm truth often sounded heavier than emotional performance. Mercer attempted recovery. But biologically related or not, Ms. Ross has functioned as Lily's mother. Yes, Spencer answered immediately. Not hesitation, not bitterness, yes. That shifted something subtle inside the courtroom. Even Judge Bennett noticed. Spencer continued quietly. I never told Lily otherwise. Mercer's strategy lost traction after that, because Spencer refused the role Amelia's filings assigned him. He was not angry enough, not cruel enough, not reckless enough. Rebecca stood again after cross-examination. Your Honor, she said we would additionally request admission of recently recovered fertility clinic documentation. Mercer stiffened immediately. Rebecca handed certified records forward. Judge Bennett reviewed them silently, then longer, then again. Finally, he looked toward Mercer. These records indicate attempted omission of disclosure attachments during retrieval requests. Mercer's expression tightened. We dispute characterization. Rebecca slid forward the digital audit log. Time-stamped, certified, clear. Judge Bennett's eyes narrowed slightly. The room grew quieter with every page he turned. Then he looked toward Amelia directly. Ms. Ross, did you request exclusion of specific biological disclosure documents during retrieval preparation? Amelia hesitated. Tiny, but fatal. Mercer answered quickly. Your Honor, my client sought privacy protections regarding sensitive reproductive history. Judge Bennett remained focused on Amelia. Not Mercer, not Brandon. Her. Did you, Amelia, finally nodded once? Yes. Spencer watched her carefully, not triumphantly, sadly, because once upon a time he would have protected that vulnerability himself. Now it sat inside court records. Judge Bennett removed his glasses slowly. The court is becoming increasingly concerned with selective presentation practices by both parties. Rebecca almost objected, but Spencer understood why she didn't. Judges hated feeling manipulated. That sentence was warning enough. Finally, Bennett issued temporary orders. No supervised visitation restrictions at this time. Spencer felt his shoulders loosen slightly for the first time all morning. Both parties are prohibited from discussing biological parentage details directly with the child pending further review. Spencer nodded immediately. Amelia did too. Then came the final line. DNA results remain pending and will be reviewed upon receipt. Silence settled across the room afterward, because everyone understood now. The next hearing would not revolve around allegations anymore. It would revolve around facts. As people began gathering documents, Spencer looked briefly toward Brandon. For the first time since this entire process began, Brandon avoided eye contact. Interesting. Very interesting. Outside the courthouse, Rebecca opened her umbrella against heavy rain. "She's slipping," she said quietly while they walked toward the parking garage. Spencer looked ahead. "She's scared." "Yes." Rainwater splashed around their shoes. Rebecca glanced toward him carefully. "And you still feel sorry for her?" Spencer didn't answer, because maybe he did. Not for the filings, not for the manipulation, but for the woman who once sat on a freezing porch terrified she would never feel like a real mother. Then his phone buzzed. New message, unknown number. Spencer opened it. A photograph loaded slowly. Lily exiting school that afternoon. Brandon standing beside her near the curb. Time stamped 30 minutes earlier. Beneath the image sat a single sentence. "You can't stop what's already changing." Spencer stared at the screen while rain hammered the city around him. And for the first time since this began, something inside his calm started turning into resolve. Spencer Griffin did not reply to the anonymous text. He stared at the photograph for several seconds inside the courthouse parking garage, while rainwater dripped steadily from concrete beams overhead. Lily stood near the curb in the picture wearing her yellow rain jacket. Brandon Pierce stood beside her holding an umbrella over both of them like a staged campaign photo. Nothing illegal. That was the problem. Every move sat carefully inside technical boundaries while still pushing deeper into Lily's life. Rebecca Hale read the message over his shoulder. Unknown number, yes. Save it. Spencer locked the phone. I already did. Rebecca studied him briefly. Most people would have been visibly angry by now, louder, sloppier. Spencer only became quieter. Rebecca had begun realizing that silence was not weakness in him, it was compression. At 6:42 a.m. the next morning, Spencer sat at his kitchen table surrounded by old storage boxes. Rain had finally stopped overnight. Pale sunlight slipped through the windows, while dust floated in the air above stacks of photographs, folders, and old receipts. Lily remained asleep upstairs. Spencer opened another cardboard box labeled 2017 House/Medical. Inside sat years of ordinary survival. Prescription receipts, daycare invoices, hospital bracelets, old birthday cards. The evidence of parenthood rarely looked dramatic. It looked repetitive. Small expenses, missed sleep, routine. Rebecca had instructed him to locate anything establishing long-term caregiving patterns before trial preparation intensified. Paper trails matter more than speeches, she told him repeatedly. So Spencer searched. At 7:11 a.m., he found the NICU bracelet. Tiny, white plastic, baby girl Griffin, Providence St. Vincent Medical Center. He turned it over carefully between his fingers. Memory arrived immediately. Bright hospital lights, machines humming softly, Lily weighing barely 5 pounds after delivery complications, Amelia exhausted and pale beneath hospital blankets, and Spencer sitting awake 30 straight hours beside the neonatal unit, because he was afraid something terrible would happen if he looked away. He set the bracelet aside gently, then found something worse, an envelope containing printed emails from Amelia, not hostile ones, older, before the divorce, before Brandon, before everything hardened. Spencer hesitated before reading. The first email was dated February 12th, 2018. Spence, thank you for staying home with Lily again. I know work's been hard lately. I don't say it enough, but I see everything you do for her. He stared at the message quietly. Then another. You're a better parent than I am when she's sick. She always calms down faster with you. And another. I'm sorry I left this morning the way I did. Sometimes I feel like she knows I'm not really. The sentence stopped halfway, never finished. Spencer closed the email printout slowly, because even years later, he remembered the argument that interrupted it. Amelia crying in the laundry room while Lily slept upstairs. You don't understand what it feels like, she had whispered harshly. Every time she looks like you. Spencer had answered wrong that night, not cruelly, just incompletely. She's our daughter. But Amelia had not needed legal reassurance. She needed emotional certainty. And maybe Spencer never fully understood that distinction until too late. At 8:03 a.m., Lily came downstairs carrying her backpack. You look like a raccoon. Thank you. You're welcome. She opened the refrigerator. Can I take 2 pudding cups today? Negotiations begin at 1. Mom lets me. Spencer handed her lunchbox. Your mom also thinks Seattle traffic is charming. That's true. She said it builds patience. Exactly my point. Lily smiled faintly again. Tiny improvements. But Spencer still noticed how quickly her eyes checked his mood every few minutes. Children adapted themselves emotionally to unstable environments. Lily had started measuring rooms before speaking inside them. He hated that. At school drop-off, Mrs. Eleanor Whitman intercepted Spencer near the entrance. Do you have a minute? Spencer nodded. The teacher lowered her voice once Lily disappeared down the hallway. I'm concerned. Spencer's stomach tightened immediately. What happened? She's withdrawing socially. Mrs. Whitman adjusted papers against her chest. Yesterday, another student invited her to a birthday party, and Lily asked if she'd still be living in Oregon by then. Spencer looked toward the school doors. She's scared. Yes, Mrs. Whitman said softly. And she's trying very hard not to upset either parent. That sentence stayed with him all morning, because it perfectly described what Spencer himself had been doing for years with Amelia, reducing himself to avoid conflict. At 11:26 a.m., he met Rebecca at her office again. This time she had another person waiting inside the conference room, a thin man in his 60s wearing wire-frame glasses and carrying 2 leather folders. Spencer Rebecca said, this is Martin Keller, forensic document analyst. Keller shook Spencer's hand briefly. I reviewed the fertility records. Spencer sat down slowly, and Keller opened one folder. The alteration indicators are obvious. He slid photographs across the table, magnified staple impressions, time-stamped discrepancies, document edge inconsistencies. Original archive pages were removed and replaced during duplication preparation, Keller explained. Likely to sanitize disclosure sequencing. Rebecca folded her arms. Intentional. In my professional opinion, yes. Spencer stared at the evidence silently. Keller continued calmly. The digital recovery logs strengthened the conclusion substantially. Rebecca looked satisfied for the first time in days. Not happy, prepared. Spencer asked quietly, could Amelia face legal consequences? Rebecca answered before Keller could. If the court believes she intentionally manipulated evidence, absolutely. Spencer looked down at the photographs again. Tiny holes in paper, microscopic signs of removal. A marriage collapsing into forensic analysis. He suddenly felt exhausted, not from the case, from realizing how long Amelia must have been planning pieces of it. Rebecca slid another folder toward him. Your turn. Inside were copies of text exchanges, calendar logs, and historical parenting schedules Rebecca wanted organized chronologically for trial. Spencer began sorting automatically. Then he froze. One message thread from 6 years earlier. Amelia, I can't do tonight. I haven't slept in 2 days. Spencer, I've got Lily. Stay wherever you need. Amelia, you're not mad. Spencer number Rebecca noticed him stop reading. What he handed her the phone printout. Rebecca scanned it quickly, then another, and another. The pattern emerged fast. Repeated absences. Spencer covering quietly. No accusations, no retaliation, just adaptation. Rebecca looked up slowly. She left a lot. Spencer leaned back in his chair. She had postpartum depression. Rebecca's expression softened slightly. Diagnosed no, but you believe it. Yes. Did she receive treatment? Spencer nodded once. For a while. Rebecca tapped the papers thoughtfully. And you never documented any of this in court filings, because Lily doesn't need to grow up reading about her mother falling apart. The room went quiet. Martin Keller stopped organizing papers entirely. Rebecca studied Spencer carefully, not as strategy anymore, as character. You've spent years protecting Amelia from consequences, she said. Spencer answered honestly. She was drowning. And now he looked toward the rain-streaked office window. She's trying to push me underwater instead. Rebecca nodded once. No argument. At 2:54 p.m., another message arrived from Amelia while Spencer reviewed files. We need to stop escalating this before Lily gets hurt. Spencer stared at the text. Then another appeared immediately after. Rebecca Hale is turning this into something ugly. He read both silently. Interesting. Not you're making this ugly. Rebecca, externalizing blame, distancing herself from the strategy. Spencer typed slowly. You filed for full custody before speaking to me. 3 dots appeared instantly, then disappeared. No response. Rebecca watched the exchange from across the table. She's trying to re-establish emotional control. Spencer locked the phone again. She used to hate conflict. Rebecca raised an eyebrow. People change under pressure. Spencer looked down at the old emails spread across the table. No, some people didn't change. Some people simply stopped hiding what fear turned them into. At 4:08 p.m., Rebecca received a call from the court clerk. She listened silently for nearly a minute, then hung up. What Rebecca looked directly at Spencer. DNA results arrived early. The room suddenly felt smaller. Spencer's hands remained still on the table, but Rebecca noticed his breathing change slightly. When? An hour ago. Do you have them? No. Judge receives certified copy first. Silence. Heavy this time, not uncertainty. Finality. Spencer already knew the truth, but official truth carried different weight. Rebecca closed the folder in front of her carefully. Will likely receive access tomorrow morning. Spencer nodded once, then stared at the old NICU bracelets still sitting beside the document stacks. Tiny white plastic. Proof of beginnings. And somewhere beyond office windows and courthouse walls and legal filings, Lily Griffin was still just a little girl worried her father might disappear, because adults kept changing definitions around her. Rebecca interrupted his thoughts quietly. Spencer. He looked up. When those DNA results enter court records, she said this case changes permanently. He already understood that. What he still didn't understand was whether Amelia truly realized how much could break once the truth stopped staying private. The courthouse did not feel like a place where truths were revealed. It felt like a place where truths were processed, filtered, stamped, filed into something permanent. Spencer Griffin sat in Department 4B, at 9:06 a.m. hands, resting flat on the table while the final hearing session began, under the same fluorescent lights that had witnessed every version of this case so far. Except this time something had changed in the room before anyone spoke. Judge Harold Bennett already had the sealed envelope on his desk. DNA results, certified, court-issued, untouched. Amelia Ross sat perfectly still on the opposite side. Brandon Pierce beside her, but slightly less confident than before. Daniel Mercer flipped through notes he didn't seem fully interested in anymore. Rebecca Hale didn't open her folder. She didn't need to. The evidence had already reached its final form. Judge Bennett adjusted his glasses slowly. Before we proceed with closing arguments, he said the court has received certified biological parentage results. The room tightened instantly, not silence, pressure. Spencer did not move. Amelia did not either, but Brandon shifted slightly in his chair. The judge opened the envelope. No theatrics, no delay, just paper sliding against paper. Spencer had expected this moment to feel larger. It didn't. It felt precise, like a machine clicking into place. Judge Bennett read once, then again, then placed the document down carefully. DNA testing confirms, he said evenly, that Spencer Griffin is the biological parent of Lily Griffin. The words did not echo. They landed, hard, final. Amelia's face did not immediately change, not dramatically, but something subtle broke in the structure of her composure, a slight loss of alignment around the eyes, a delay in breathing. Brandon looked down at the table. Daniel Mercer stopped writing. Rebecca Hale remained completely still. Judge Bennett continued, "The court further notes that no genetic maternal link exists between Ms. Amelia Ross and the minor child. That sentence changed the room more than the first, because it removed ambiguity, removed narrative flexibility, removed emotional framing." Spencer exhaled slowly through his nose. Not relief, stability. Amelia finally spoke, her voice controlled but thinner than before. "That doesn't change what I've done for her." No one responded immediately, because legally she was right. Emotionally, the room was no longer hers to control. Rebecca stood first. "Your Honor," she said calmly, "this confirms prior concerns regarding selective disclosure and attempted modification of reproductive documentation." Daniel Mercer immediately rose. "Objection. Biological results do not negate maternal role or establish caregiving history." Judge Bennett raised a hand slightly. "Noted." Then he looked directly at Amelia. "Ms. Ross, did you at any point attempt to restrict or alter fertility documentation relevant to this case?" Amelia's jaw tightened. "A fraction of a second too long." "Yes," she said finally. "I requested certain sensitive documents not be included in public filings." Rebecca stepped forward immediately. "Not included or excluded from court review." Amelia hesitated again. Brandon looked toward her now. For the first time, uncertainty replaced confidence in his posture. Judge Bennett leaned forward slightly. "Answer the question precisely." Amelia's voice stayed steady but smaller. "Excluded from public review." Rebecca nodded once. "That aligns with documented retrieval modification requests." Judge Bennett looked down at the file again, then back up. "Court finds that reproductive history documentation was selectively filtered during initial evidentiary submission." Mercer exhaled sharply. "Your Honor." The judge cut him off. "This court is not yet making a custody determination based on genetics alone." That sentence stabilized the legal frame, but not the emotional one, because everyone in the room understood something irreversible had just been confirmed. Spencer Griffin was not a legal placeholder, not a secondary figure, not an assumed role. He was the biological parent, and more importantly, the documented primary caregiver. Judge Bennett continued, However, this court must now reassess credibility of submitted affidavits in light of incomplete evidentiary disclosure. Amelia's fingers tightened around her pen. Spencer watched her carefully now, not with anger, with clarity, because for the first time he could see something beneath her strategy, fear of losing narrative control. Judge Bennett turned another page. Mr. Griffin. Spencer stood. Yes, Your Honor. Do you believe Ms. Ross poses a risk to the child's well-being? The question was direct. Spencer paused, not because he lacked an answer, because he understood the weight of it. No, he said finally. I believe she is trying to fix something she doesn't understand. Amelia's head lifted slightly at that, not defensive, listening. Judge Bennett studied him. Explain. Spencer chose his words carefully. I think she believes replacing environment will fix emotional uncertainty. Better house, better city, better partner. But Lily doesn't need replacement. She needs consistency. A pause. Then he added quietly, she needs truth that doesn't change every time adults get uncomfortable. Silence again. Different now. Less procedural, more reflective. Rebecca looked down, but did not interrupt. Judge Bennett turned toward Amelia. Ms. Ross, do you agree that consistency is in the child's best interest? Yes, Amelia said immediately. Then explain why relocation was proposed prior to court evaluation. Amelia's breathing shifted slightly. Because I thought she stopped, reframed. I believed it would provide better opportunities. Judge Bennett nodded slowly. Better opportunities do not inherently override stability. Brandon finally spoke for the first time that day. Your Honor, Lily has bonded with new environments before. Children adapt. Judge Bennett looked at him directly. Mr. Pierce, you are not a legal guardian in this proceeding. Brandon stopped immediately. That sentence mattered. Not because it was harsh, because it defined boundaries clearly. Rebecca stepped forward again. Your Honor, at this stage we request primary custody. Remain with Mr. Griffin based on demonstrated caregiving continuity, verified biological parentage, and established stability metrics. Mercer responded quickly. Ms. Ross has functioned as emotional caregiver since birth. Rebecca didn't hesitate. So has Mr. Griffin. With documentation, without interruption. That distinction shifted the room again, because continuity mattered more than claim. Judge Bennett leaned back slightly. This court will take the matter under advisement for final custody determination. He paused, then added, however, given current findings, any relocation attempt is suspended indefinitely. Amelia's shoulders lowered slightly. Not defeat, containment. Spencer sat down slowly, not celebrating, not reacting, just absorbing, because custody wasn't resolved yet, but trajectory had changed, and everyone in the room knew it. As the hearing adjourned, chairs shifted, papers gathered, voices lowered into post-court murmurs. Amelia remained seated longer than anyone else. Brandon leaned toward her, saying something quietly Spencer couldn't hear. Rebecca closed her folder. Step outside, she said softly to Spencer. They walked into the hallway together. The courthouse noise faded behind heavy doors. Rain had started again outside. Rebecca spoke first. That was the turning point. Spencer looked down the corridor toward the exit. I don't feel like anything changed. That's because you're still inside it. Spencer nodded slightly. Lily still has to hear all of this eventually. Rebecca didn't deny it. No version of this ends without explanation. That sentence sat heavier than any courtroom ruling. Spencer stared at the rain outside the glass doors. I didn't want her to become part of this system. Rebecca looked at him directly. She already was the moment Amelia filed. A pause. Then Spencer asked quietly, What happens next? Rebecca answered without hesitation. Final custody ruling. Then we transitioned to post-order parenting structure, and Amelia supervised adjustments first, then gradual review. Spencer nodded once, but his attention wasn't fully there because his phone had just buzzed. A message from Lily's school. He opened it. Simple notification. Student counseling session scheduled. Lily Griffin? Parent notification completed. Spencer stared at the screen. Rebecca noticed immediately what he showed her. Rebecca read it once, then again. Her expression sharpened. She moved faster than expected. Spencer looked up. Amelia did this indirectly, Rebecca said. But yes. Spencer locked his phone slowly. She's preparing Lily emotionally for something. Rebecca didn't respond immediately, because she understood exactly what that meant. Narrative preparation, framing, soft introduction of change before legal confirmation. Spencer exhaled slowly. She's not just fighting custody anymore. Rebecca's voice lowered slightly. No. Spencer finished the thought. She's rewriting identity. A long silence followed. Then Rebecca said, then we counter carefully. Because whoever shapes Lily's understanding first will shape how she survives this. Spencer didn't answer, but his face had already changed. Not angry, focused. Because now the case was no longer just legal. It was psychological. And Lily Griffin was standing in the center of it. The counseling office at Cooper Mountain Elementary looked nothing like a battlefield. That was the problem. Soft chairs, neutral colors, posters about emotional awareness on the walls. A small box of tissues placed carefully on a low table like every problem could be managed with quiet breathing and enough time. Spencer Griffin stood outside the glass door for almost 10 seconds before entering. Lily was already inside, seated on a blue couch, legs swinging slightly, hands folded in her lap in a way that looked too controlled for an 8-year-old. Beside her sat Dr. Hannah Lowell, the school counselor. Mid-40s, calm voice, clipboard resting gently on her knee. Mr. Griffin, she said as he entered, thank you for coming on short notice. Spencer nodded once. Lily looked up immediately, not scared, watching, measuring. That quiet shift in children the moment they start tracking adults like weather systems hit him harder than anything in court. Dr. Lowell gestured toward the chair opposite. Please sit. Spencer did. No delay, no resistance, just presence. Dr. Lowell spoke gently. This session is part of routine emotional support, following reported family stressors. Spencer kept his eyes on Lily. What stressors? Lily spoke first. People at school keep saying things. Spencer nodded slightly. About what? About me moving. A pause, then she added, and about different parents. Dr. Lowell watched carefully, not interrupting. Spencer leaned forward slightly. What do you think about that? Lily shrugged. I don't know what's true anymore. That sentence didn't rise in volume, but it changed the room. Spencer didn't look at Dr. Lowell. He kept his focus entirely on Lily. Hey, he said quietly, look at me. Lily did. Spencer's voice stayed steady. You don't have to decide what's true right now, but everyone else is deciding for me. No, he corrected gently. They're deciding for themselves. That's different. Lily blinked once, confusion mixed with relief. Dr. Lowell spoke carefully. Lily has expressed concerns about upcoming changes in living arrangements. Spencer nodded. That's fair. Dr. Lowell continued. She also asked whether love changes based on legal relationships. Spencer's jaw tightened slightly. He exhaled once before answering. No, he said. It doesn't. Lily studied him closely. Then why does everything feel like it's changing? Spencer paused. Because the honest answer was complicated. Because adults were dismantling her world through paperwork she would only understand later. But what she needed now wasn't legal truth. It was emotional stability. Kia, Spencer chose carefully. Because grown-ups are dealing with grown-up problems badly, he said, and you're seeing too much of it. Dr. Lowell observed silently, noting the interaction. Lily looked down at her hands. Mom said I might talk to someone more often now. Spencer's attention sharpened. More often, how Dr. Lowell responded. Additional sessions, just to help Lily process transitions. Spencer looked at her directly. Is this required recommended? By who? A slight pause. By the custodial petitioner. Spencer understood immediately. Amelia wasn't just reacting anymore. She was structuring interpretation. Slow influence. Controlled framing. Spencer looked back at Lily. Do you want to come here more often? Lily hesitated. Honest hesitation. I don't know. Spencer nodded once. That's okay. Then he added, but I need you to know something. Lily waited. Spencer's voice softened. You are not in trouble, and you are not broken, and nothing about you needs fixing. Lily's eyes shifted slightly. Dr. Lowell watched that moment closely, because children didn't always need intervention. Sometimes they needed anchoring. Outside the counseling room, Spencer stood in the hallway afterward, while Lily returned to class. Dr. Lowell walked out behind him. She trusts you, she said quietly. Spencer didn't answer immediately. I hope so. She does, Dr. Lowell confirmed. But she's also absorbing conflict faster than she can process it. Spencer looked toward the classroom hallway. I'm trying to slow it down. Dr. Lowell studied him for a moment. Children don't separate truth from tension very easily, she said, even when adults think they are protecting them. Spencer nodded slowly. I know. That was the problem. Knowing didn't stop impact. At 4:18 p.m. that same day, Spencer received the court notification. Final custody ruling scheduled, 48 hours. Rebecca Hale met him that evening in her office without paperwork on the table this time. Just silence first. Then she spoke. They're accelerating final review. Spencer sat across from her. Because of counseling, because of everything she corrected. The court sees escalation on both sides. Spencer leaned back slightly. I don't feel like I'm escalating anything. Rebecca didn't argue. That's not how courts measure escalation, she said. They measure exposure. Spencer looked down. That's unfair. Rebecca's expression stayed steady. Family court is rarely fair. It's structured. A pause. Then she added, but you're in a strong position. Spencer looked up. Because of DNA, because of continuity, she said, because of documentation. Because you didn't suddenly become a parent when litigation started. That sentence mattered more than it should have. Spencer exhaled slowly, and Rebecca paused. She's losing narrative control. Spencer frowned slightly. Explain that. She built a story, Rebecca said, but stories require consistency, and her filings are starting to contradict each other. Spencer thought about that, about altered fertility documents, about Brandon's shifting statements, about emergency motions filed too quickly. Because she's reacting, he said. Rebecca nodded once. Yes. Then she added, and reaction is visible. That was the difference. Amelia had started moving emotionally while Spencer had stayed static. Courts noticed that imbalance. At 7:03 p.m., Spencer returned home. Lily was already inside drawing at the kitchen table. She looked up immediately. Dr. Lowell said I don't have to come every week if I don't want to. Spencer paused. That's good. Lily tilted her head, but she also said adults are very complicated right now. Spencer almost smiled. That's the most accurate thing anyone said all week. Lily went back to drawing, then asked without looking up, Are we going to move? Spencer leaned against the counter. No. A pause. Ever. That question carried more weight than it should have for her age. Spencer chose clarity. Not because of this case. Lily nodded slowly, then added quietly, I don't want to live in Seattle. Spencer looked at her carefully. Okay. That's it. That's it. Lily studied him for a moment. You're not going to fight Mom, Spencer didn't answer immediately, because the truth was already happening. He already was. Just not in ways children could easily see. At 9:22 p.m. after Lily fell asleep, Spencer sat alone in the living room, reviewing court documents. Rebecca's voice echoed in his mind. Exposure, not intention. Amelia was exposing herself through urgency. He was exposing himself through documentation. And Lily was caught in the middle of two versions of reality competing for permanence. Spencer closed the folder slowly. Then his phone buzzed. Unknown number again. A single message. You think you're protecting her. You're just delaying what she'll eventually understand. Spencer stared at it for a long time, then placed the phone face down. But this time, something had changed. Not anger, not fear, clarity. Because for the first time, he understood the real battle wasn't custody anymore. It was who Lily would believe when the noise finally stopped. And Spencer Griffin was running out of time to make sure the answer didn't destroy her. The final custody hearing did not begin with drama. It began with paperwork being placed on a table. One stack for Spencer Griffin, one stack for Amelia Ross, one sealed envelope in the middle that everyone pretended not to stare at. Judge Harold Bennett entered at 9:01 a.m. sharp. No delay, no ceremony, just finality approaching in a measured pace. Spencer sat still. This time Lily was not in the building. Rebecca Hale had insisted no child should sit inside the room where their life gets decided in paragraphs. Amelia arrived with Brandon Pierce again, but something about them had changed. Not their clothes, not their posture, their timing. They arrived 3 minutes late. Small detail. But Rebecca noticed. Spencer noticed too. Late people were rarely in control. Judge Bennett sat down and adjusted his glasses. This court has reviewed all submitted evidence, testimony, and psychological reports. A pause. Then we will proceed with final statements before ruling. Daniel Mercer stood first for Amelia. His voice was controlled but less polished than before. Your Honor, Ms. Ross has been the consistent maternal figure in Lily Griffin's life since birth. Emotional bond, household stability, and future educational opportunities in Seattle remain in the child's best interest. He gestured lightly toward Amelia. She has built a home environment that prioritizes long-term development. Rebecca stood immediately after. No hesitation. Your Honor, opposing counsel continues to rely heavily on narrative framing rather than documented caregiving continuity. She placed a single folder on the table. Mr. Spencer Griffin has been the uninterrupted primary caregiver in every measurable category: medical, educational, financial, and emotional. She opened it. Charts, logs, records, not emotional arguments. Patterns. Rebecca continued. Stability is not defined by ambition. It is defined by consistency. Amelia shifted slightly in her seat. Brandon looked down. Judge Bennett turned a page slowly, then another. Then he looked up. Mr. Griffin. Spencer stood. The room didn't feel large anymore. It felt compressed. Yes, Your Honor. Do you believe you are the more suitable custodial parent? Spencer paused. Not because he didn't know the answer, because the question itself felt wrong. I believe he said carefully that I am the parent who has been present every day she needed one. Judge Bennett studied him. Even during conflict, yes. Even when you disagreed with Ms. Ross. Yes. A pause. Even when you were accused of instability, Spencer's voice stayed steady. Yes? Judge Bennett nodded slowly, then turned to Amelia. Ms. Ross. Amelia straightened slightly. Yes, Your Honor. Do you contest Mr. Griffin's day-to-day caregiving record? A pause. Too long. Finally. No, Mary. That single word shifted something in the room, because it removed the strongest argument from her side. Judge Bennett leaned back slightly. Then the court must weigh emotional stability claims against documented continuity. Mercer quickly stepped in. Your Honor, emotional welfare cannot be reduced to scheduling. Rebecca responded immediately. It also cannot be manufactured through relocation proposals made prior to court evaluation. That sentence hit harder than intended because it was true. Judge Bennett raised a hand slightly. Enough. Silence returned. He looked down at the sealed DNA file again, already entered into record, already accepted, already irreversible. Then he spoke. This court recognizes Spencer Griffin as the biological parent of Lily Griffin. A pause, and further recognizes that Ms. Amelia Ross does not share biological parentage. Amelia's expression did not collapse, but it tightened. Controlled fracture, Judge Bennett continued. However, custody decisions are not solely determined by biology. Spencer remained still. He already knew that. Judge Bennett turned another page. This court's determination will prioritize the child's established emotional stability and caregiving continuity. Rebecca's hand tightened slightly on her folder. Amelia's breathing slowed. Brandon didn't move. Judge Bennett read the final section carefully. Based on reviewed evidence, the court finds that Spencer Griffin has served as the consistent primary caregiver, providing uninterrupted physical, emotional, and developmental support. A pause. Then the sentence that finalized everything. Primary physical custody is awarded to Spencer Griffin. The words did not echo. They settled. Amelia closed her eyes for a fraction of a second. Not dramatic, not visible to most, but Spencer saw it, because he wasn't looking for victory. He was looking for impact. Judge Bennett continued. Ms. Ross is granted structured visitation rights subject to phased review contingent upon cooperative co-parenting compliance. Mercer exhaled quietly. Rebecca did not react outwardly. Spencer remained seated for a moment longer than necessary, not because he was processing victory, because he was calculating what came after. Judge Bennett looked toward both parties. This court strongly encourages both parents to prioritize the emotional welfare of the child above adversarial positioning. Then he closed the file. Court adjourned. The sound of chairs moving filled the room. Not celebration, release. Amelia stood slowly. Brandon leaned toward her, speaking softly, but Amelia did not respond immediately. Her eyes moved across the room, eventually landing on Spencer, not angry, not pleading, just aware. Spencer stood as well. They were separated by distance tables law and everything that had been built between them. Amelia spoke quietly. You didn't have to take it this far. Spencer answered without hesitation. I didn't. A pause. You did. That landed differently, because it wasn't an attack, it was an observation. Amelia looked away first, not dramatic, just final in a smaller, quieter way. Brandon placed a hand on her shoulder, but this time she didn't lean into it immediately. Outside, the courthouse rain had stopped. The pavement was still wet, reflecting gray sky and moving cars. Rebecca stepped beside Spencer. That's done, she said. Spencer looked toward the courthouse doors. No, he replied quietly. Rebecca frowned slightly. What do you mean? Spencer adjusted his coat. That was the court part. Rebecca studied him for a moment, and the rest. Spencer looked toward the street where parents would pick up children in a few hours, where Lily would ask simple questions that no legal document could answer cleanly. The rest, he said, is explaining it to her in a way that doesn't hurt more than it already has. Rebecca nodded slowly. That part is harder. Yes, Spencer said. A pause. Then, but it matters more. Across the street, Spencer saw Amelia and Brandon standing near a black SUV. Amelia was still. Brandon spoke, but she wasn't fully listening. For the first time since this began, Amelia looked less like someone controlling a narrative and more like someone realizing the narrative had already moved on without her. Spencer turned away, not to erase her, but because the focus was no longer the courtroom. It was Lily. That afternoon, Lily sat in the back seat of Spencer's truck as they left school early. She noticed immediately something was different. You're quiet in a new way, she said. Spencer smiled slightly. Is that bad? Lily thought for a moment. No, just different. The truck moved through Portland streets slowly. Spencer kept both hands on the wheel. Lily watched him carefully. Did something happen? Spencer nodded once. Yes. Lily waited. Spencer chose simplicity. The judge decided you're going to live with me most of the time. Silence. Not confusion. Processing. Then Lily asked softly, Does that mean I won? Spencer's grip tightened slightly on the steering wheel. No, he said. A pause. You didn't have to win anything. Lily looked out the window. Mom looked sad. Spencer didn't respond immediately, because that was the part no ruling could simplify. I know, he said finally. Lily shifted in her seat. Is she mad at you? Spencer shook his head. No. That surprised her. Then what is she? Spencer thought carefully, trying to understand what comes next. Lily nodded slowly, then asked the question he had been preparing for days. Am I allowed to still love her the same? Spencer didn't answer immediately, because this was the real ruling no court could issue. He looked at his daughter. Yeah, he said quietly, you are. Lily nodded once, then leaned back into her seat. Outside, the city moved normally again, but inside the truck something had permanently changed. Not loud, not dramatic, final. And for the first time in a long time, Spencer Griffin understood that custody wasn't the end of conflict. It was the beginning of explaining truth in a world that didn't come with clean definitions. The house was quieter than Spencer Griffin remembered it being. Not empty, just settled, like something heavy had finally stopped moving through it. Lily sat at the kitchen table with a cup of hot chocolate she wasn't really drinking. Steam rose in thin lines, disappearing before it reached the ceiling. Outside, Portland light filtered through the window in soft gray layers. No rain, just stillness. Spencer placed a grocery bag on the counter. Routine was the only thing that still worked without negotiation. Milk, bread, apples, Lily's favorite cereal. Life in its simplest form. Lily watched him unpack silently. Then she spoke. So I live here more now. Spencer nodded. Yes, like full-time. Most of the time. She absorbed that. No tears, no dramatic reaction, just processing. Children didn't always break loudly. Sometimes they adjusted in quiet increments. Will I still see Mom? Yes. Will she still pick me up sometimes? Yes. Another pause. Then Lily asked the question she had been holding since court. Is she okay? Spencer didn't answer immediately, because the truth wasn't simple. Amelia Ross hadn't collapsed in a courtroom. She hadn't broken down publicly. But something in her structure had shifted. Carefully built certainty replaced by uncertainty she couldn't control. I think she's figuring things out, Spencer said finally. Lily nodded slowly, then looked down at her hot chocolate. I don't want anyone to be sad. Spencer leaned against the counter. That's not something you get to control. She frowned slightly. That's annoying. Yeah, Spencer agreed. It is? A small smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Not happiness, but familiarity returning. The doorbell rang at 4:18 p.m. Spencer already knew who it was before opening it. Rebecca Hale stood on the porch, holding a thin manila envelope. No briefcase today, no courtroom tone, just human exhaustion after legal finality. It's official, she said. Spencer stepped aside. Inside the envelope were finalized custody orders, stamped, signed, filed. Rebecca placed them on the kitchen table gently. Lily looked at them immediately. What is it? Rebecca crouched slightly to her level. Paperwork saying where you'll spend your time. Lily nodded like she understood more than she should have to. Spencer stayed standing. Rebecca looked at him. You did well, she said simply. Spencer didn't respond immediately. Then I didn't feel like I did anything. Rebecca nodded once. That's usually what stable parenting looks like in court. That almost made him smile. Almost. Rebecca turned toward Lily. "You're going to be okay," she said softly. Lily studied her. "I already am." That answer surprised even Rebecca slightly, but children adapted faster than adults admitted. Rebecca left a few minutes later. The house returned to quiet again. Evening light replaced gray daylight. Spencer stood in the kitchen while Lily sat on the couch flipping through a sketchbook. She had drawn wolves again, this time 2 separate packs, not fighting, just divided. Spencer noticed that immediately. "You're drawing more wolves." Lily shrugged. "They're easier than people." That landed harder than she probably intended. Spencer sat beside her. They watched the room quietly for a moment. Then Lily asked, "Do you think Mom will ever move back?" Spencer thought carefully before answering. "I don't know." "Do you want her to?" The question was simple, but it wasn't about custody. It was about emotional architecture. Spencer exhaled slowly. "I want you to feel safe," he said. Lily nodded. "That's not the same thing." "No," Spencer admitted. "It's not." She leaned her head briefly against his shoulder. Not a child seeking comfort in crisis, just presence. Later that night, after Lily went to bed, Spencer sat alone at the kitchen table. The legal files were stacked neatly in a folder now marked Final Order. He didn't open it again. He already knew what it said. Instead, he pulled out a small metal box from the drawer beneath the counter. Inside were old things: NICU bracelet, early drawings, receipts, a life built in fragments. He placed the custody order inside as well, not as victory, not as defeat, just as record. A complete version of a story that had taken years to unfold. His phone buzzed once. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, then opened it. A message from Amelia. "Tell her I love her. I didn't handle this the right way." Spencer stared at it for a long time, then set the phone down without replying, because some messages were not meant to be answered immediately, or perhaps ever. At 6:37 p.m., Lily came downstairs again in pajamas. "I can't sleep." Spencer looked up. "Bad dreams." She shook her head, just thinking about what she hesitated. Then everything feels quieter, but also louder. Spencer nodded slowly. "That happens." She sat across from him. "Are things better now?" Spencer considered the question carefully. Not legally, not structurally, but emotionally. Finally, he answered honestly. "They're clearer." Lily frowned. "That doesn't sound better." "It is," Spencer said gently, "even if it doesn't feel like it yet." She accepted that without argument. Children trusted tone more than content. A few seconds passed. Then Lily asked, "Are you still going to work a lot?" Spencer smiled slightly. "Yes, that's boring. That's life." She sighed dramatically, then added, "But you'll still be here when I get home?" Spencer looked at her, always careful with promises now. "Yes," he said, "I will be here." That was enough. Lily stood up and walked back toward her room. Halfway down the hallway, she turned. "Dad?" "Yeah." She paused, then said quietly, "I think I like this version of things more." Spencer didn't answer immediately, because he understood what she meant. Not custody, not court, not adults fighting over definitions, just stability. "Me too," he said finally. Lily nodded once and disappeared into her room. Spencer remained at the table long after. The house was quiet again, but this time it didn't feel like absence. It felt like structure, not perfect, not untouched, but steady. Outside, Portland night settled gently over the neighborhood. No storms, no sirens. Just ordinary life continuing in a direction that no longer felt like it might collapse without warning. Spencer Griffin looked at the closed folder on the table one last time, then stood up, turned off the kitchen light, and walked down the hallway toward his daughter's room. Because whatever had happened in court, this was the part that still mattered.